Chapter 2255, Escape. 1. Yu Qingtang looked on with cold eyes as the crowd surged into the door. She secretly glanced to the side. As expected, lured by the prospect of obtaining the legacy, the Rising Dragon Island men left the unconscious Mu Ziying alone outside the door. None of the major factions would let go of this great chance to obtain the Fiend Celestial's will. They would not leave any one of their men outside the door, as this would only decrease their chances of winning. Moreover, Mu Ziying was already unconscious. Whatever reward the Rising Dragon Island would gain from her kidnapping would not be as valuable as the Fiend Celestial's will. Lei Yan and the others also didn't enter the door. They had come to rescue Mu Ziying, and now that everyone had entered the door, they immediately knew this was their chance. But they saw that the black-robed Yu Qingtang was standing outside the door with the Night Soul Beast. They hesitated but believed that she would not bother with them. So they reached out to grab Mu Ziying. All the while Qin Feng kept his eye on Yu Qingtang as they did so, deeply afraid that this mysterious black-robed person would move against them. Yu Qingtang heaved a secret sigh of relief on seeing those brats carrying Mu Ziying away. But now, she was focusing her attention on what was happening behind that door. After the various factions rushed in, they behaved like demons, madly searching for something in that illusory space. The door suddenly closed up. With a loud bang, everyone was now trapped inside. In the next second, Yu Qingtang turned and said to the vigilant Qin Feng and gang, "Leave." Qin Feng and the rest were taken aback. After confirming that she was talking to them, they were filled with suspicion. They stared vigilantly at Yu Qingtang. Yu Qingtang was speechless, but now was not the time to get into a discussion. She could already hear the sounds of fighting from behind that door. Inheriting the Fiend Celestial's will. It was all just bullshit dreamed up by Yu Qingtang to deceive those people. In her previous life, Yu Qingtang had heard many stories about the Fiend Celestial's tomb and knew that several illusory doors existed not far from the entrance. These doors could conjure what you most desired. Since Yu Qingtang appeared, she had been quietly selling the idea of the Fiend Celestial's will to those factions. By the time they entered the tomb, passed the matrix path and arrived at the illusory doors, the desire that Yu Qingtang had implanted in everyone's subconscious was now enough to become an illusion. As long as they stepped beyond this door, their most desired thing would appear. And at this moment, the one thing which all those people most desired was the Fiend Celestial's will, which Yu Qingtang had been quietly guiding their subconscious toward. This was also why Yu Qingtang dared to hoodwink these major factions. But the illusion would not last for long. After the various factions started fighting, their mindsets would start to change and the illusions would also evolve. With their sharp eyes, it wouldn't take long for them to realize that something was off. Yu Qingtang had to quickly get Mu Ziying away before they realized this. Lei Yan and the rest were clearly distrustful of the black-robed person. They instinctively shielded Mu Ziying and took up a protective stance. "Mighty One, we have no intention of obtaining the Fiend Celestial's will. We came into the tomb by accident." "Mighty One, please," Yunqin spoke politely. After all, they did not wish to engage this black-robed person who could control a Night Soul Beast. Chapter 2256, Escape. 2. Yu Qingtang, there was not much time left. The illusory door was not as solid as the one at the entrance. If the major factions managed to break their way out, it would be a one-way road to hell for them. Yu Qingtang shed her disguise and took off her black robe. The nervous teenagers were completely dumbstruck after Yu Qingtang revealed herself. Boss? Lei Yan widened his eyes in disbelief. Looking at that familiar face, he didn't dare to believe his own eyes. "I asked you to stay put, why are you so disobedient?" Yu Qingtang scolded. That familiar voice. That familiar face. That familiar manner. All the teenagers were stunned. "Is it really boss? Boss, when did you become the protector of the Fiend Celestial's tomb?" Nangong Lai asked in astonishment. Yun Chen was the most shocked. He had already suspected that Yu Qing was hiding his true identity, but now, what protector? "It's just to trick those fools," Yu Qing said. Those fools, the corners of the teenagers' lips twitched when they thought about those powerful practitioners behind the door. We have no time to waste. Follow me now. If they break through that door, we will all die here. Yi Qing stated as she led Lei Yan and the rest to the middle door. Boss, isn't the entrance behind us? Jing Zhe asked. Yi Qing explained as he walked. That's the entrance. You can enter but you cannot exit. Just follow me. Remember, follow me closely. One could only enter and not exit via the matrix path. Otherwise, any bit of noise would trigger an attack by the evil demon statues. Although Yi Qingtang had heard many stories about the Fiend Celestial's tomb in her previous life, she was not 100% sure if those stories were entirely accurate. If not for the sake of rescuing Mu Ziying, she would never step into such a dangerous place. Lei Yan and the rest didn't dare to spend any more time talking. With Mu Ziying in their arms, they followed close behind. But as they gazed at Yi Qing's back profile, the faces of the teenagers became increasingly curious. Boss, why does he know so much about the Fiend Celestial's tomb? If he hadn't revealed himself, I would never have thought that the black-robed person was him. The more Lei Yan thought about it, the more amazed he became. When the black-robed person first appeared, he was so dominant and powerful. Even the major factions were all subdued by him. Who could have known that it was their teacher who was underneath those black robes? I am even more curious as to whether that thing beside boss is really the Night Soul Beast. Nangong Lai mused with a perplexed expression. Yi Qingtang didn't have the time to explain herself now. She just searched her memories for everything related to the Fiend Celestial's tomb, so that they could avoid any hidden traps. Soon after Yi Qingtang and her group left, the major factions behind that illusory door saw that their surroundings had started to morph as they fought each other. The various factions had started fighting to get the Fiend Celestial's will. Under the influence of pain and the smell of blood, they started to become more clear-headed. Stop! The demon child hollered. The power of a divine Lord 8th heaven-level practitioner swept across the place. Everyone stopped. You bunch of fools. We have been duped. Where is the Fiend Celestial's will? The demon child snapped in a cold voice. Chapter 2257, Escape, 3, everyone was stunned by his words. In the next moment, they reassessed their surroundings. Although the scene remained the same, the earlier Fiend Celestial energy had completely disappeared. This was all an illusion, there is no Fiend Celestial's will. There's something wrong with that black-robed person. The demon child narrowed his eyes. As the most powerful, he was the first to realize something was wrong. Even so, he had also been duped. On the other side, Yi Qingtang led the teenagers through the darkness. Suddenly, a faint glow appeared before them. What's that? Lei Yan asked timidly. Yi Qingtang didn't reply but only stepped forward. In the murky darkness, a glowing river had appeared before them. Black figures danced upon the surface of the water. Yi Qingtang had to lean closer to see clearly. Those black figures were monsters. The monsters had bat-like wings, but their bodies were similar to those evil demon statues on the Matrix path, just much smaller. Those flying evil demons held all sorts of weapons, their eyes radiating with a pale blue light. Moments later, Lei Yan and the others caught up and saw those flying evil demons. Their faces instantly turned grim. Suddenly, an alluring singing voice drifted over. The song was melodious and filled with a woman's charm. It sounded like it was coming from afar, but gradually approaching. Who is singing? Qin Feng frowned. Yi Qingtang looked toward the surface of the water. Lit by the light, several blurry figures slowly appeared beneath the surface of the water. Nervous, Lei Yan and the rest took a step backward, keeping their eyes fixed upon the water. The sound of water accompanied the singing. The song seemed to possess a strange power. It felt like it could dispel all fears. As the singing continued, the formerly frightened teenagers suddenly took a step toward the water. Amidst the darkness, light shone out of the water, as if a star had dropped into the water. a beautiful figure had quietly swum to the side of the river. She had a gorgeous face with exquisite, flawless features. But faint scales grew on the sides of her cheeks. The beautiful woman popped her head out of the water, her lustrous long hair cascading down onto her pristine shoulders. Those deep blue eyes sparkled as that melodious voice came out from between her slightly parted red lips. It was like the sound of nature itself. Qin Feng was bewitched. There were plenty of beautiful women in the world, and Qin Feng had always felt that he would never be bewitched by a woman's looks. But now, all he could see was this gorgeous lady. Somehow, he was now bent over and the woman in the water reached out one slender, fair arm, gently caressing Qin Feng's cheek. She seemed to be smiling, with her eyes as intoxicating as the finest wines. Qin Feng. Yi Qingtang's voice suddenly rang out beside his ear. Shocked, Qin Feng realized that he was now kneeling by the river, and the woman's arms were looped around his neck. Qin Feng was just one arm's length away from falling into the water. Before Qin Feng realized what was happening, Yi Qingtang suddenly reached out to drag him away. Just as she did so, she felt a powerful force and the beautiful woman's face twisted. Chapter 2258, Escape. 4. The woman watched as her prey was being dragged away, and that beautiful face instantly morphed into a heinous and demonic expression. Roar! She opened her jaws wide, revealing sharp teeth. Springing out of the water, it instantly exposed her lower body to Qin Feng. It was a rotting fishtail, half the scales had already rotted away and fused with the flesh. Qin Feng instantly paled. After Yi Qingtang tossed him to the side, she shot a black flame out from her hand, driving the mermaid monster back into the water. He fell to the floor in a daze. At this moment, he finally noticed that Lei Yan and the rest had also somehow walked to the edge of the river. And in the water in front of each of them was an exceptionally beautiful woman. Yi Qingtang narrowed her eyes. The black flame in her hand morphed into a fiery dragon, shooting straight toward those monsters. The high heat from the flames broke off the melodious singing voices of those beautiful women. Ear-piercing shrieks echoed through the air as their lovely faces morphed into heinous expressions. With a splash, they plopped back into the water. Lei Yan and the rest were still in a daze as Yi Qingtang dragged them all back. Yi Qingtang lit a wall of fire around the edge of the water using her black flame. Endless monstrous shrieks could be heard from behind that wall. What was that? Jingzhe collapsed to the floor, still in a daze. He had no idea what just happened. He just remembered seeing a beautiful face and that alluring singing voice. Are those mermaids? Yun Chen asked. He had heard legends of half-human, half-fish creatures amongst the Sea clan. But, these mermaids appeared to be different from the legends. Yes and no. They used to be mermaids but now, they are just monsters which have been transformed by the demon energy of the Fiend Celestial, Yi Qingtang replied coldly. These mermaids had already died. But because of the Fiend Celestial's lingering energy, as well as the power of this tomb, they were transformed into undead monsters. Their voices were full of allure and anyone who heard them would be instantly seduced, slowly being pulled into the river to be forever trapped in the watery depths. They would then become part of the tomb. Boss, should we take a detour then? These things are too horrifying. Lei Yan just felt like crying. What kind of godforsaken place was this? There's no other route. We have to go through this river, Yi Qingtang said. But, Yi Qingtang didn't say anything more. Taking out a rope, she tied them all together in a line. Close off your 5 senses and follow me into the water, I will take you across the river. To leave this tomb, they would have to exit from the opening on the other side. There was no way they could avoid this river. Boss, aren't you worried about being bewitched by those monsters? Who do you think I am? Lei Yan was stunned. Yi Qingtang smiled. I am your boss. Of course I will try my best to bring you all out of here safe and sound. The teenagers were slightly taken aback by Yi Qing's words. Since stepping into this tomb, they had been filled with fear and apprehension at everything they had witnessed. But Yi Qing's words had immediately wiped away the unease in their hearts. It was as though, as long as he was around, all problems could be resolved. After tying everyone properly, Yi Qingtang gave Mu Ziying an elixir. Suddenly, she heard a series of faint voices, and her face immediately darkened. Chapter 2259, Escape, 5, Things were not looking good. The major factions had probably already discovered something was wrong and were trying to leave the illusory space. It would not take long before they came chasing after them. She had to take them across the river as soon as possible. Close off your senses, Yi Qingtang commanded. Dispelling the flaming wall, she leaped forward, diving straight into the dark river water. Lei Yan and the rest were likewise pulled into the water. The Night Soul Beast was still in a daze by the side when it was dragged into the water by Yi Qingtang. The Night Soul Beast, but since it had already signed a contract with Yi Qingtang, as much as it wanted to, it couldn't just kick Yi Qingtang aside now and escape on its own. The chilly water enveloped them. Lei Yan and the rest had already shut their senses but allowed their bodies to maintain a swimming mode. In the darkness of the water, they could not see or hear anything. Only the rope tied at their waists guided them forward. Yi Qingtang was right at the front, she was the only one who could see. Right after diving into the water, countless undead mermaids appeared from the depths of the river. They looked like a swarm of fish, swimming toward them. Those undead mermaids opened their jaws wide, charging madly at the group and surrounding them. Lei Yan and the rest had shut their senses and didn't know what was happening. The mermaids' singing voices echoed through the water. If one closed his eyes and just listened, it was intoxicating. But the sight of those heinous faces was spine-chilling. Yi Qingtang swam quickly, continuously shooting out black flames from her hands to break through the mermaids blocking their way. Thankfully those mermaids were not very powerful. Their most terrifying trait was their ability to seduce. They could make someone drown without him even realizing it, then his body would decay and become their food. Soon after, his soul would forever be trapped in this tomb. But as long as one could fend against the allure of those undead mermaids, they weren't that terrifying. Yi Qingtang had the heart of the heavenly Tao and the deity ocean inside her body. This gave her an exceptionally strong mental power, and so these undead mermaids did not affect her. Even so, just the sight of being surrounded by so many undead mermaids was enough to make one's heart shudder. It was a very long river, and who knew how long it would take before they reached the end. Countless undead mermaids swam continuously around them, trying to lure these people into the watery depths. Yi Qingtang continued to make her way forward. Luckily the Night Soul Beast was around and those mermaids did not dare to attack them directly. As the guardian beast of the evil soil forest, the Night Soul Beast was born from the Fiend Celestial's power. To these undead mermaids, who were not that powerful, the Night Soul Beast had a certain subduing effect. This was also why Yi Qingtang dared to bring everyone into the water. Without the Night Soul Beast, those mermaids would probably have already pounced on them and devoured them down to the bone. Yi Qingtang suddenly discovered a beam of light in the water. The light originated from somewhere in the depths of the river. Yi Qingtang's eyes lit up. In her previous life, people who visited the tomb said that this river was boundless. One would never be able to swim from end to end. So there was only one way to leave this boundless river, and it was in the depths of the river. Yi Qingtang immediately dragged Lei Yan and the rest toward that beam of light in the depths. The immense water pressure made Yi Qingtang feel like her internal organs were being squeezed together. If she didn't use her spirit energy to protect her body, this tremendous pressure was enough to squash a human into paste. Chapter 2260, Treasure Trove, 1. There was a massive tunnel where the glowing light seemed to emanate from. Yi Qingtang could see it now. Sparking precious jewels were embedded on the two sides of the tunnel. The river water appeared to be sealed off from the tunnel, unable to seep in at all. On and on Yi Qingtang surged forward as she led Lei Yan and the others straight into the tunnel. Drenched from swimming in the river, all the water dripping off their bodies immediately evaporated once they entered the tunnel. It was only then that Yi Qingtang woke them up. The teenagers realized that they had somehow arrived at a tunnel. Turning around, they saw countless undead mermaids swimming in the water behind them. "Boss, you really managed to bring us all here." Nangong Lai stared at Yi Qing in amazement. "Let's take a look at Ziying first," Yi Qing said. Yun Chen put down the unconscious Mu Ziying. Although she was covered in bruises, none of them appeared to be critical. However, her face was rather pale. Yi Qing Tang fed her an elixir and in the blink of an eye, Mu Ziying woke up. Right before she opened her eyes, her brows wrinkled instinctively. But after lifting her lids and seeing those familiar faces before her, Mu Ziying was completely dumbstruck. Boss? Boss? Hadn't she been captured by those Rising Dragon Island men? What had happened? Surprised. Ha! Little senior sister, you didn't expect this, right? We all came to save you. Lei Yan grinned. Still in a daze, Mu Ziying noticed Yi Qing and averted her gaze slightly. Lei Yan and Nangong Lai told her all about how they merged into the crowd, how Yi Qing deceived all the major factions, and so they had managed to save her. Hearing all that with a trembling heart, Mu Ziying desperately wished to bury her head in her chest. I have been a burden to everyone. As young as Mu Ziying was, even she knew that it would not be that easy to leave this fiend celestial's tomb. Yi Qing and the others had taken the risk to come into this dangerous place, all because of her. A warm hand suddenly landed on top of Mu Ziying's head. As Mu Ziying lifted her head, she looked into Yi Qing's smiling eyes. Can you walk? Yi Qing asked. Mu Ziying was taken aback. She nodded in bewilderment. We cannot linger here. If you are tired, have them carry you. Yi Qing spoke in a mild voice. The Rising Dragon Island matter was an accident. She would not blame anyone for this kind of accident. Mu Ziying nodded silently, before following Yi Qing Tang. Boss, this tunnel looks much brighter than the other areas of the tomb. Does this mean we can leave soon? Lei Yan asked eagerly. He really didn't wish to stay here a second longer. Who knew how many more terrifying things existed here? Yi Qing Tang didn't reply. In her previous life, there was a lot of information about the Fiend Celestial's tomb, but also a lot of different versions. Someone once said that there was more than one tunnel in the depths of the boundless river. Even Yi Qing Tang could not be sure where they were now. Seeing that Yi Qing had remained silent, the others also obediently kept quiet. They remembered clearly what happened at the Matrix Path earlier. Who knew what would happen in this tomb? The glowing tunnel seemed to have no end. Having gotten to this point, Yi Qing Tang had no choice but to continue leading the group forward. Chapter 2261, Treasure Trove, 2, The nose of the Night Soul Beast following behind Yi Qing Tang twitched. It seemed to have detected something. But after sneaking a look at Yi Qing Tang and making sure that she didn't have any special reaction, it quietly narrowed its eyes. After walking for a long time in the endless tunnel, a golden glow appeared somewhere toward the front. The glow was exceptionally eye-catching in the pitch-black tomb. No matter what, it was human instinct to head towards the light. Lei Yan and the rest instinctively quickened their steps. But everyone was stunned when they reached it. A sea of dazzling gold greeted them. Countless jewels piled as high as mountains. Gold and silver precious artifacts were strewn across the ground like gravel, filling up every single crook and cranny. It was so expansive that one couldn't see the other side. All one could see were the dazzling treasures. What is this place? Nangong Lai instinctively clutched his heart. He was from a major family clan and had never lacked riches. But at this very moment, he finally knew what was called a hidden treasure trove. Mountains of gold spanning several hundred meters in height. Formed by pieces of gold piled together, with countless jewels interspersed between, sparkling and lustrous. Could this be the Fiend Celestial's hidden treasures? Even the usually steady Jing Zhe couldn't resist gasping at the sight of these spectacular golden mountains and silver seas. My goodness! Is that a dragon saliva jewel? Lei Yan widened his eyes in disbelief. He saw a dragon saliva jewel as big as his head nestled casually in a pile of jewels. Did I see correctly? If I tell my grandfather that there is a dragon saliva jewel as big as my head, he will think I have gone mad. Lei Yan held his forehead, trying to calm himself down. Yi Qingtang was expressionless. She just continued walking, entering the sea of treasures. With every step taken, clear tinkling sounds rang out from the jewels beneath her feet. These treasures had been tossed everywhere, piled together like garbage. It was a very tempting sight. Yi Qingtang had once seen the Divine Phoenix's treasure stash, and she knew just how big it was. And this treasure trove here was not at all inferior to the Divine Phoenix's stash. In fact, it might be even bigger. The amount of treasure here was enough to adorn every single person in any one of the mainlands in the second domain from head to toe, and there would still probably be some left over. The teenagers had never seen so much riches. They were all in a daze. Damn, no wonder the major factions were all so desperate to enter the Fiend Celestial's tomb. So this is the treasure they were seeking. This is really something worth going mad for. Nangong Lai felt increasingly astounded. The sight of all those treasures, as uncountable as the stars in the sky, truly left him dumbstruck. Even the most useless cultivator could beat those so-called powerful practitioners if he could get his hands on one of these precious artifacts. I say, shall we pick a few? See who dares to pick on us after we return to the academy. Lei Yan smiled deviantly. The ears of the other teenagers pricked up at his words. They started to look at the treasures with an appraising eye as if really trying to find something which they needed. Chapter 2262, Treasure Trove, 3. A faint light flashed across the eyes of the Night's Soul Beast when it noticed their reactions. It quietly went past an artifact slightly protruding out, and secretly pulled at it. Clack, 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 a pile of gold pieces scattered to the ground, revealing the handle of a sharp sword. That sword handle suddenly gleamed, and Yi Qingtang's attention was immediately drawn to it. Is that the Netherworld sword? Qin Feng was also focused on the sword now. His usually steady gaze was filled with an intense shock. The Netherworld sword was a genuine divine-level weapon. The Qin family was very proficient with swords. At that time, Qin Zhua had led the Qin family to their peak with a sword in hand. So Qin Feng was exceptionally knowledgeable about swords. For a divine-level weapon like the Netherworld sword, he had only seen it in some ancient records. He never imagined that he would get the chance to see it in person. It should be pointed out that even the most useless practitioner would be able to ascend to elite levels with a divine weapon in hand. No one in this world would say no to a divine-level weapon. Qin Feng was mesmerized by the sight of it. The Night's Soul Beast glanced at Qin Feng, as if not at all surprised by his reaction. However, it was more concerned about Yi Qingtang's reaction. The Night's Soul Beast looked at Yi Qingtang, only to see her still standing in her original spot. She just glanced at the Netherworld sword before looking away, not tempted at all. The Night's Soul Beast, it took 2 more steps and casually picked up another divine-level artifact, revealing it to Yi Qingtang. Yun Chen and the others gasped. Meanwhile, Yi Qingtang just gave it a mild glance, not exhibiting any particular reaction. By now, the Night's Soul Beast looked rather confused. It wanted to try again but saw that Yi Qingtang was now staring at it as it tried to pull out another divine weapon, the Night's Soul Beast. Yi Qingtang gave a faint smile. The Night's Soul Beast shuddered all over. No one is allowed to touch anything here. Mu Ziying and the others were all shocked by Yi Qingtang's words. Boss? Lei Yan was befuddled. There were so many formidable treasures here. But they couldn't even touch a single one. Where was the logic in that? Don't touch anything if you don't wish to die. Yi Qing stated in a cold voice. The teenagers were all startled by the sudden chilliness in his tone. Faced with such a massive temptation, it was undeniably a major challenge to human nature. Schoolmates who just got to know each other, or even biological brothers might end up killing each other over such tempting treasures. But now, Lei Yan and the others did not understand. But they obediently went over to Yi Qing's side, still casting longing glances at the treasures. Yi Qing's words reminded them of what kind of place this truly was. This was the Fiend Celestial's tomb. Without Yiqing, they would never make it out of here alive. Yiqing understood this tomb better than any of them, so they instinctively trusted every single one of his decisions. The Night Soul Beast was astounded. Previously, it saw that those teenagers were already all prepared to make their move. Why did they suddenly stop? Did they really not want these treasures? Impossible. The Night Soul Beast felt very dismal, and Yiqing Tang clearly noticed its reaction. Chapter 2263, Treasure Trove, 4. There are many treasures here, but don't you all feel that it's too quiet in here? Yiqing asked after looking at the confused faces of those teenagers. Boss, what do you mean? Qin Feng asked. Yiqing surveyed the surroundings. There are dangers everywhere in the Fiend Celestial's tomb. It's illogical for the place where the treasures are stored to be so safe. If I am not wrong, this is the most dangerous place in the tomb. Every single one of these treasures might trigger a trap. I am afraid that if any one of us touches a single thing here, we won't be able to leave this tomb. Yiqing's words brought a sliver of common sense back to those deliriously tempted teenagers. At this moment, they realized that it was truly too quiet in here. No evil demons, no undead mermaids, no illusions. It was like all these treasures had been laid out nicely before them, for them to choose at will. At this point, Qin Feng and the rest couldn't help feeling relieved. Luckily they had been too overwhelmed by the choices and didn't immediately reach out to take an item. Otherwise, who knew what kind of trouble they would invite? Can see, but cannot touch, this feeling, is so. Lei Yan held his face as his heart ached. Yiqing Tang turned to look at the Night Soul Beast. The Night Soul Beast guiltily averted its eyes, trying to pretend as if nothing happened. The hints of a smile flashed past Yiqing Tang's eyes. Originally she hadn't been sure if there were any dangers hidden within this treasure trove, but the actions of the Night Soul Beast triggered her suspicions. The Night Soul Beast had been forced to sign a contract with her. The contract stipulated that the Night Soul Beast couldn't harm her, but it had been reluctant to sign this contract. It probably hoped that she would die as soon as possible, so that the contract would become void. What a pity that it couldn't harm her itself. That was why it had carried out those actions. Observing the Night Soul Beast's reactions, Yiqing Tang confirmed that the treasures inside this place could not be touched. It was probably a one-way road to hell for whoever took anything. Let's leave this place first. Yiqing Tang looked away. After knowing the thoughts of the Night Soul Beast, she did not want to stay too long at this place. Lei Yan and the others were just teenagers and had little worldly experience. Their way of thinking was also more pure and naive. If they continued to linger in this treasure-filled place, who knew if they would be tempted to do something disastrous? Leading the group, Yiqing Tang sped past those treasures. The treasures were piled as high as mountains, their dazzling sparkle lighting up the entire space. Yiqing Tang was constantly alert to any movements in the surroundings. When she focused, she seemed to hear some faint tinkling sounds coming from some of the further treasure piles. The sound was very faint. As if something was crawling under those piles of treasures. The thing hidden amongst the jewels seemed to be circling Yiqing Tang and her group from a distance. And that faint noise was continuous, echoing subtly around the entire place. A sense of unease rose in Yiqing Tang's heart. She needed to find the exit as soon as possible. What is that? Mu Ziying's voice suddenly rang out from behind. Mu Ziying's body was too weak, so Jing Zhe was carrying her. As a result, her line of sight was also higher now. Now, Mu Ziying had widened her large eyes, staring at one end of the treasure trove. Yiqing Tang followed Mu Ziying's line of sight and saw a huge skeleton standing upon a mound of treasure. Chapter 2264, Leaving, 1, Is that the Fiend Celestial skeleton? Lei Yan swallowed hard. That skeleton was colossal. If one were to guess, it was at least 100 meters in height. The mere sight of it chilled them to the bone. Only the chest area was exposed. The bottom half was buried beneath the treasure piles while the head was swallowed by the darkness of the endlessly high ceiling. Lucky we listened to boss and didn't take anything. If this is really the skeleton of the fiend celestial, even though it's already dead, we will probably die horrible deaths if we plunder its treasures right in front of its skeleton. As Yi Qingtang looked at its curved ribs, she saw it was like a huge cover encasing countless treasures. If one were to look closely, they could see faint green light sparkling amongst the bones. Yi Qingtang led the group toward that colossal skeleton. Lei Yan and the others hesitated. "Boss, should we circle around?" "We shouldn't disturb the fiend celestial," Lei Yan asked timidly. This godforsaken place. Even the statues required peace and quiet. Who knew if this skeleton was the fiend celestial? The fiend celestial would definitely be even more domineering than those evil demon statues. "We cannot circle around it." The teenagers exchanged glances. While they had no idea why Yi Qing was so stubborn, they didn't dare to disobey. So they only followed obediently behind him. Boss had more world experience than them. "Just follow boss, you couldn't go wrong with that." There was no way Yi Qingtang would circle around. The sight of that skeleton reminded her of the key to leaving the fiend celestial's tomb. However, she had to confirm if the rumors were true. "There's a tree there." Yunchen suddenly saw a large, green tree growing right within the massive ribcage. It was a towering tree with expansive branches spreading all across the inside of the ribcage as if it was an internal organ system. The sight of that vibrant green tree amongst the pile of sparkling treasures looked exceptionally eye-catching. "Looks like fruits are growing upon that tree." Qin Feng's brows furrowed slightly. Everyone turned toward the tree. Hidden amongst the thick leaves were indeed multiple glowing spots. As they approached the tree, several people gasped. What kind of fruit was that? They were clearly high-level treasures. If those treasures on the ground were enough to make one shriek in delight, then those upon that tree were enough to make one completely stupefied on the spot. Every single fruit on that tree was a divine-level artifact. Any one of them was enough to shock the entire second domain. With so many divine-level artifacts hidden amongst the tree leaves radiating with a vibrant green glow, it only served to accentuate the allure of those treasures. Even with Yi Qing's warning, the sight of those artifacts had the group swallowing hard to suppress their temptation. Second domain. If they could get their hands on those treasures, they could even take over the third domain. Just as everyone was feeling very moved, Yi Qingtang's attention was attracted by a black fruit on that tree. The fruit was about the size of a fist and pitch black. Hidden amongst the leaves and all the other dazzling divine artifacts, it was very easy to overlook that dim, black fruit. Chapter 2265, Leaving, 2, but after Yi Qingtang spied that black fruit, she was unable to tear her eyes away from it. The evil fruit. Yi Qingtang never expected that the fruit which she most desired would be growing on this demon tree in the fiend celestial's tomb. To take it? Or not to take it? Yi Qingtang narrowed her eyes. The seal on the heart of the heavenly Tao was about to fade away. Without the evil fruit to subdue it, the heart of the heavenly Tao would be completely exposed. At her current level, if the heart of the heavenly Tao was exposed, it would attract the attention of many powerful second domain practitioners. By then, she would need to return to how she lived in her former life, forever hiding in fear. By this stage, the Knight's soul beast had already given up. But it suddenly noticed the way Yi Qingtang was looking at something growing on that demon tree. Hope rose in its heart. But that glint of hope in its eyes immediately brought Yi Qingtang to her senses. Yes, she had to get that evil fruit. But now was not the time. Looking at the Knight's soul beast's reaction, Yi Qingtang knew that the things growing on that demon tree were probably the same as the other treasures here. Taking them would invite all sorts of terrifying dangers. Mu Ziying and the rest were with her now. If she made any missteps, she would drag them all down with her. Luckily, she now knew where the evil fruit was. She just had to lead Mu Ziying and the rest out of here first. Then she could find another chance to come back here to take it. Turning away, Yi Qingtang allowed the desire in her eyes to disappear. The Knight's soul beast's eager face immediately fell once more. Were humans so self-disciplined now? Treasures were strewn across the ground and growing on trees, but no one wanted them. This was not like humans at all. Let's go. Yi Qingtang composed herself and instructed Mu Ziying and the rest. If she remembered correctly, the exit of the Fiend Celestial's tomb should be behind this skeleton. Lei Yan and the others kept looking back as they moved forward. If not for Yi Qing's stern warning, they probably would not be able to resist such a massive temptation. They were no fools. They had experienced how dangerous this place was. If not for Yi Qing, they probably would not have made it so far but died much earlier on. Yi Qing must have her reasons for not letting them touch anything. As they passed by the demon tree and skeleton, they found a dim tunnel hidden right behind. Yi Qingtang led the group into the tunnel, not touching anything at all. Right after Yi Qingtang and the group entered the tunnel, the faint tinkling noise rang out again, but this time, it was going further away from them. Yi Qingtang knew that now she had reached this point, those pursuing factions should no longer be a threat. A treasure-filled place like this was enough to drive all those factions mad. How would they still remember her? After walking quietly for over a dozen meters, the tunnel suddenly widened by 100 times. A dim cave appeared before them. Multiple black monsters were crowded together in the cave, sleeping. Lei Yan was nearly in tears from fright at the sight of them. Night, Lei Yan was about to cry out but Yi Qingtang immediately covered his mouth, shushing him. Right in the center of the cave before them, were at least 100 slumbering night soul beasts all crowded together. It was the night soul beasts' period of hibernation. The hearts of the teenagers nearly leaped out of their throats. Chapter 2266, Leaving, 3. Having witnessed the horror of the night soul beast, how could they endure the sight of so many of them all crowded in one place? To think they had accidentally stumbled into the sleeping chambers of the night soul beasts. Even Qin Feng, who was the bravest amongst them, couldn't help breaking out in cold sweat. If they accidentally woke up these night soul beasts, there was no way they would ever leave this place. Yi Qingtang looked grim. Even she did not dare to wake these night soul beasts. She knew the secret to handle a night soul beast, but against so many, even she was not confident in doing so. At this moment, Yi Qingtang thought of how those factions believed that the period of hibernation was the safest time to explore the tomb. She felt like laughing now. Safe? It was probably the opposite, right? It was true that the evil soul forest was comparatively safe during the period of hibernation. But who could have expected that those night soul beasts would be hibernating inside the Fiend Celestial's tomb? If those factions managed to survive and reach this cave, wouldn't they die from fright at the sight of these night soul beasts? Safe, to those exploring the Fiend Celestial's tomb, this was infinitely more dangerous. Yi Qingtang shot Lei Yan and the others a look. The teenagers immediately steadied their hearts. The night soul beast standing beside Yi Qing suddenly took on a strange expression. But before it could make any movement, Yi Qing suddenly lifted it into his arms. The night soul beast, Yi Qing smiled at it. The smile was radiant and it made all the hairs on the night soul beast stand on end. Helplessly, its body shrunk to the size of a cat. Lei Yan and the rest noticed the entire incident, and their eyes nearly popped out in shock. What the hell? Was their boss really able to handle a night soul beast in this manner? The night soul beast in Yi Qing's arms was as small as a cat. Seeing that, the teenagers calmed down. It looked like their boss really knew how to deal with night soul beasts. So, they didn't have much to worry about then. Yi Qing's actions greatly reduced the fear in their hearts against night soul beasts. They believed that their boss could manage all those beasts. What they didn't know was that Yi Qing could only handle one. If all the night soul beasts in this cave woke up, they might as well all just lay down and wait for death. Regardless, this misunderstanding managed to calm their hearts down. Yi Qingtang didn't have time to explain but just had them follow close behind her, making their way through the gaps between those night soul beasts. The group carefully followed behind Yi Qing, trying to make their footsteps as light as possible. Growl, just as Mu Ziying passed by a sleeping night soul beast, that beast suddenly gave a low growl and shifted its body. Mu Ziying's face turned pale. Luckily Jing Zhe was fast and managed to draw Mu Ziying into his arms just before the Night Soul Beast made contact with her. Yi Qingtang heaved a hidden sigh of relief, but she suddenly spotted something out of the corner of her eye. There seemed to be a special pattern drawing on the original spot where the Night Soul Beast was sleeping. Yi Qingtang seemed to have seen that pattern drawing someplace before. But at that moment, she couldn't really recall it completely. Having been forced to walk past over 100 slumbering night soil beasts, the teenagers were all extremely anxious. Even though they had the wrong idea that Yi Qing could handle all those beasts, just the sight of the numbers was terrifying enough. Chapter 2267, Leaving, 4. After walking for an unknown period of time, the group finally emerged from the herd of hibernating night soul beasts. It was not that far a distance, but everyone was drenched in cold sweat. Seeing that Yi Qingtang and her group had safely emerged, the Night Soul Beast in her arms rolled its eyes in hopelessness. Yi Qingtang scanned the way before them. It was pitch black, like a tunnel with no end. But Yi Qingtang knew that as long as they continued this way, they would be able to leave the Fiend Celestial's tomb. Go on. Yi Qingtang nodded at the teenagers, indicating that they should move first. Lei Yan and the others thought that there was still a long way to go and so despondently trudged forward. But the moment Lei Yan entered the darkness, the pitch-black scene before him was suddenly replaced by bright light. Dazed by the piercing light, Lei Yan instinctively shut his eyes, and when he opened them again, he realized he was standing outside the entrance of the Fiend Celestial's tomb. The entrance of the Fiend Celestial's tomb was erected right before his eyes, in the middle of the mountain. Lei Yan was bewildered. How did he suddenly arrive here? Before Lei Yan could snap out of his trance, Mu Ziying and Jing Zhe appeared beside him. The two of them reacted the same way as Lei Yan. They were similarly stunned. Close behind, Nangong Lai, Qin Feng, Yun Chen and the rest all appeared. Yi Qing, with the Night Soul Beast in his arms, was the last to emerge. Boss, how did we come out? Nangong Lai was puzzled. He looked around. Apart from the large stone door, which was the entrance to the Fiend Celestial's tomb, they could not see any other doorway. How did they come out? Just like that. Yi Qing would not be able to explain everything about the Fiend Celestial's tomb right now. They had been lucky. After diving into the boundless river, they managed to find the nearest exit. If they had entered another tunnel inside that boundless river, who knew where they might have ended up? Yi Qingtang had also noticed earlier that there were nearly 1,000 different tunnel entrances at the Fiend Celestial's treasure trove. Each represented a road and no one knew what they would encounter in each. And amongst the 1,000 tunnel entrances, only the one hidden behind the skeleton would lead to the exit from the Fiend Celestial's tomb. If Yi Qingtang hadn't been reborn and knew key information about the Fiend Celestial's tomb, they would probably have died inside. Now is not the time to talk about all these. We must return to the camp immediately. Yi Qing surveyed the teenagers with a cold eye. Lei Yan and the rest knew that Yi Qing was just waiting till they returned to camp to give them a good scolding. Boss, let us explain. We had no choice, little senior sister. We will talk after we go back. Yi Qing stated coldly. Since the Temple of Paragon had issued the reward notice, the factions they encountered earlier would not be the only ones in the second domain to be interested. Those factions would be on their way to the Evil Soul Forest now. Yi Qingtang did not wish to encounter those other factions outside the Fiend Celestial's tomb. Lei Yan and the rest instinctively shrank back. Knowing that they were in the wrong, they had no choice but to obediently follow Yi Qing back to camp. On the way back, Yi Qingtang noticed from afar several teams of horsemen flashing past the undergrowth. They looked like men from the other factions, who were rushing to the Fiend Celestial's tomb. After the entrance to the Fiend Celestial's tomb had been opened, it would not close for the time being. Chapter 2268, Hidden Danger, 1. Soon after Yi Qingtang and the others returned to the Night Soul Beast's cave, those teenagers, who were exhausted from their ordeal at the Fiend Celestial's tomb, all fell asleep before she could reprimand them. Mu Ziying had also suffered quite a bit and was clearly very tired, but she forcibly kept her eyes open, not daring to fall asleep. Seeing this, Yi Qingtang had no choice but to hold her on her knees and coax her to sleep. She let out a quiet sigh as she watched those sleeping brats. At first, she only wanted to make use of the Netherworld Academy's wind-calming pearl to leave this mainland. But now, after spending time with these brats, she had somehow developed feelings for them. Hearing them call her boss and pestering her all day long, Yi Qingtang was exasperated by their antics. But her heart also felt a bit warmer. I wonder how Little White Tiger and the others in Central Mainland are. Yi Qingtang gazed at the grayish forest outside the entrance of the cave. Since coming to the second domain, she had lost contact with everyone in the first domain. The voice transmission stone which Ling Yan had given her was unable to connect across the two domains. She had tried to use the voice transmission stone to contact Ling Yan, but the stone remained unresponsive. While in Central Mainland, she had been taken away by the Temple of Paragon people. The only good thing was that the situation with the ancient Yu clan had already been resolved. Everyone should be safe. I wonder if Little White Tiger misses me. Yi Qingtang glanced at the Night Soul Beast, who was sleeping with its four limbs all sprawled out. She couldn't help being reminded of that excitable Little White Tiger. If she managed to leave this mainland, Yi Qingtang had considered whether to return to the first domain or remain in the second domain, to search for the mystery behind the heart of the heavenly Tao. After pondering for some time, Yi Qingtang decided on the second option. The heart of the heavenly Tao in her body was a great danger. Even the powers of the divine phoenix or the evil fruit would only be able to temporarily suppress the heart of the heavenly Tao. They were not complete solutions. The only way was to gain a full understanding of this hidden danger, and then try to remove it from her body. Only then could she have true peace. Otherwise, she would never be able to escape her ill fate. After all, the heart of the heavenly Tao did not belong to her. But ever since she could remember, it had existed inside her body. She had tried to ask her foster father Yiling if there was anything strange about her when he first found her, but Yiling hadn't noticed anything amiss. This meant that the heart of the heavenly Tao was already inside her body when Yiling found her. But when did the heart of the heavenly Tao become part of her? Probably only her biological mother, Di Jiu Yuan, could answer this question. Yi Qingtang recalled her time in the mystic realm when she met those people from the Dragon Emperor clan. Now, they were her only source of information as to what happened to her mother. Only by going to the Dragon Emperor clan would she be able to find out everything about her mother. If she remembered correctly, the mainland where the Inter-Academy competition would be held was the same as the one where the Dragon Emperor clan was located. If she could help Qin Feng and the others enter the Inter-Academy competition, she could go with them to that mainland, to uncover the secret behind the heart of the heavenly Tao. At this thought, Yi Qingtang confirmed her next plan of action. Chapter 2269, Hidden Danger, 2, Eyes scanning the dark, dim evil soul forest, Yi Qingtang felt somewhat tired. She leaned against the cold wall and shut her eyes. During this period of time, the various factions would continuously surge toward the Fiend Celestial's tomb because of the Temple of Paragon's reward notice. Yi Qingtang did not plan to get entangled with those factions under such circumstances. So she decided to lay low for a few days and observe the situation first, before entering the Fiend Celestial's tomb again. Just as Yi Qingtang was entering Dreamland, a streak of light secretly flew in from outside the Evil Soul Forest. The light passed through the entire Evil Soul Forest, flying straight toward the Fiend Celestial's tomb. As the door to the Fiend Celestial's tomb was opened, the various factions had surged inside the moment they discovered the entrance. Two figures hidden in the darkness floated in mid-air as they peered down at those factions rushing into the Fiend Celestial's tomb. "My lord, it is as you predicted. The various factions have all entered the Fiend Celestial's tomb." A stooped-over old man cupped his fists respectfully at the black-clad elder. The elder floated in mid-air with his hands crossed behind his back. Dressed in black and wearing a black mask, all that was revealed were his two eyes, which shimmered subtly. He stared coldly at the living beings surging into the Fiend Celestial's tomb. There was no warmth at all in those eyes at all. "But I didn't expect them to find a way into the tomb so quickly," the elder said. The old man also looked puzzled. I also didn't expect this. My lord, when you disclosed information about the Fiend Celestial's eye to the Temple of Paragon, and then had the temple announce the news, I also made the arrangements to have our men merge in with the various factions so that they could guide them toward the method to open the door. But, our men arrived only to see that the door was already opened. The elder was also puzzled. According to their plans, the Fiend Celestial's tomb should only be opened at a certain point. But now, the Fiend Celestial's tomb was opened earlier than they expected. Don't tell me the Temple of Paragon also sent their own men here. The old man guessed. The elder shook his head slightly. Even the Temple of Paragon doesn't know how to open the entrance to the tomb. Yes, my lord. The elder narrowed his eyes as his gaze landed on the Fiend Celestial's tomb in the middle of the mountain. Up in mid-air, he could see the entire mountain. Under the faint moonlight, wisps of aura seemed to drift up endlessly from that deathly still mountain. My lord, regardless of when this door was opened, the results would be the same. None of the various factions who entered the tomb would make it out alive, the old man said in a low voice. Everyone in the second domain wishes to find the treasure in the tomb. But none of them knows that this tomb is a place where one will never return from. The elder said, if the Temple of Paragon did not suddenly express an interest in that thing, I wouldn't have gotten the chance to bring forward this plan. Yes, but we just don't know why the Temple of Paragon is suddenly interested in the Fiend Celestial's eye. I tried to probe but couldn't find any information. Don't go sticking your nose into the Temple of Paragon's affairs. Now is not the time to get into conflict with them. Yes, my lord. The elder didn't speak again. He looked at the rising aura drifting up from the mountain. Narrowing his eyes, a black pearl suddenly shot out from his hand and flew toward the mountain, disappearing inside. Chapter 2270, Hidden Danger, 3. The moment the pearl disappeared, the flowing auras were suddenly sealed off. Everything looked normal once again. Understanding dawned upon the old man when he saw the elder's actions. My lord, the array formation in the Fiend Celestial's tomb has already been activated. After the men from the various factions have been sacrificed inside, their souls will enter that array formation. Your plan is indeed flawless. The elder surveyed the area, scanning the pitch-black forest. People only knew that the Fiend Celestial's tomb was filled with the Fiend Celestial's treasures. What they did not know was that those treasures were just a lure to their death. The dangers within the Fiend Celestial's tomb were far greater than what everyone could imagine. 10 out of 10 people would die. It was a guaranteed consequence of those who entered. Let's go. Before the array formation has absorbed enough souls, no one would be able to leave this place alive, the elder said before he disappeared with a flash. The old man glanced at the mountain one last time, his eyes glowing with an evil glint. That's right. Anyone who stepped into the tomb before the sacrifice was complete, would only end up being a sacrifice himself. The two of them disappeared, not knowing that their expected 10 out of 10 prediction had already changed. Yi Qingtang and her group had walked out of the tomb well and alive. After resting for a night, they recovered from their fatigue. This time, Yi Qingtang did not dare to let those brats fool around again. After observing for a few days, she marked out a few locations from where the various factions were entering, before carving out a safe zone. She had Lei Yan and the others continue their training there. On her own, she continued to observe the movements of the various factions. The number of factions who entered the Evil Soul Forest continued to increase over the next few days. And the number of powerful practitioners at present became increasingly terrifying. Some of the major factions even dispatched their most elite practitioners into the tomb. But Yi Qingtang observed that none of those who entered the Fiend Celestial's tomb managed to emerge. Even the demon child and his company, Yi Qingtang saw no traces of them. The expansive Fiend Celestial's tomb was like a deep abyss hidden in the darkness, swallowing everyone who dared to enter. Yi Qingtang remembered that in her previous life, before information about the Fiend Celestial's tomb was completely exposed, the various factions had spent dozens of years exploring it and losing many men in the process, before finally fully understanding the place. But it was rather strange. The period of hibernation for the Night Soul beasts should have ended several days ago. All the night soul beasts should have been out roaming in the evil soul forest now. But Yi Qingtang realized that after the Fiend Celestial's tomb was opened, apart from the one by her side, she did not see any other night soul beast. Could it be? Had the night soul beast's period of hibernation had lengthened? Or did someone from the factions disturb the night soul beast's slumber and the beasts decided to remain in the tomb after realizing there were intruders? Yi Qingtang had no idea. But she did not have much more time. The divine phoenix seal would completely disappear in another 2 days' time. If she couldn't get the evil fruit within these 2 days, the heart of the heavenly Tao would regain its freedom. By then, Yi Qingtang's secret would be exposed. There was no choice. Yi Qingtang had to enter the Fiend Celestial's tomb as soon as possible. Before going in, she specifically gathered Lei Yan and the others, instructing them to be very careful. She was going to be away for a few days. Chapter 2271, Exploring the Tomb Again, 1. After returning to the cave and resting for a night, Lei Yan and the others were duly reprimanded by Yi Qing. Now, the teenagers were as obedient as dogs. Yi Qing's word was the law. After settling them in and giving them her instructions, Yi Qingtang made some preparations before leading the night soul beast toward the Fiend Celestial's tomb once more. She specially found an empty spot of time when none of the factions were outside the tomb, and quickly entered it. With her prior experience and her memories from her previous life, Yi Qingtang's second venture into the tomb went very smoothly. But there was a difference from her first time. The entire tomb was now filled with the thick stench of blood. On the matrix path, Yi Qingtang glanced at the densely packed evil demon statues and saw a mess of blood and flesh. Countless bodies were piled beneath the feet of those statues. Fresh blood had dyed the entire ground a deep red. An endless sea of pulverized flesh and internal organs were piled together. Crushed by the statues, those bodies were completely deformed. They looked like mounds of fleshy pulp stacked around the statues. In her first experience entering the tomb, the place had been filled with a strange aura. But now, this place was like hell on earth. Walking past the matrix path and stepping into the palace with the illusory doors, the formerly pristine grounds were also strewn with countless bodies. All the doors looked like they had been opened. Bloodstains streaked the edges of the doorways. There were different sorts of illusory doors. Yi Qingtang had just wanted to divert the attention of the various factions, and so had chosen the safest one for them. Inside that particular door, one would only experience certain illusions. It was not that lethal. But the other doors were fatal. Amongst so many doors, there was only one which would lead to the true path forward. A single misstep could bring endless calamity. Yi Qingtang took a deep breath. Only 2 weeks had passed and the inside of the Fiend Celestial's tomb was already covered in corpses. The number of people who had died was already beyond estimation. An increasing number of major factions and an increasing number of powerful practitioners had come in. But in the end, none of them managed to make it out alive. Passing through the illusory door, Yi Qingtang arrived at the boundless river. She had made a special mark at the place where she dived into the river. The entire route was imprinted in her memory and she followed that route as she swam inside the river. Those undead mermaids swam in the waters. Yi Qingtang personally saw them dragging those who had already drowned into the depths. Even the waters were filled with the thick taste of blood. Bits of flesh which had been torn off floated in the water, making the river even murkier. After leaving the boundless river, Yi Qingtang finally arrived at a familiar tunnel. She pushed herself onwards until she soon found the dazzling scene. But before Yi Qingtang arrived at the Fiend Celestial's treasure trove, piteous cries echoed from somewhere up front. Loud wails and softer whimperings echoed into the tunnel. Those cries plus the smell of blood made one feel as if they had accidentally stepped onto the stairway to hell. Yi Qingtang frowned slightly as she quickened her steps. When she arrived at the entrance of the treasure trove, she saw that it had turned into hell on earth. Chapter 2272, Exploring the Tomb Again, 2. Inside the dazzling treasure trove, garish streaks of blood splattered all across the jewels and artifacts. Multiple corpses were strewn across those treasures which could drive a person mad. Those highly desired treasures had now become a burial ground for the various factions. The bodies piled up on the treasures had died wretchedly, none of them whole. Vast amounts of fresh blood dyed those bodies a bloody red. The vibrant red color looked exceptionally eye-catching against the dazzling treasures. Help! Help! Cries and wails echoed through the treasure trove. A group of bloodied people was scurrying madly in all directions. Their faces were filled with shock. Gone were the initial signs of delight at discovering this treasure trove. Yi Qingtang looked over with a grim expression. While she could see those people running wildly, she did not see anything pursuing them. No! Yi Qingtang suddenly realized that there seemed to be something hidden in the treasure piles behind those men. It was protruding slightly and speeding toward those men. Something hidden within the treasure piles was quietly chasing after those greedy intruders. Tinkle tinkle tinkle. The clear sound of countless treasures clinking against each other rang out. A massive black figure suddenly burst out from underneath the treasure pile. Before those men could react, that black figure had pounced upon the first few. It then burrowed back into the treasure pile and sped toward the others. Dismembered remains were all that was left of those who had been attacked. The bodies of those men were cut off at the waist. The top halves were missing and fresh blood gushed out from the opening at the waist. Hot blood sprayed all over like raindrops. What was that thing? Yi Qingtang was shocked. When she had first stepped into the Fiend Celestial's treasure trove, she already detected something horrifying was hidden underneath the treasure piles. But the speed of that thing had been too fast. Even Yi Qingtang could not see what it was. All she saw was a black shadow flashing by and killing those men. Yi Qingtang noticed that those who had lost the upper halves of their bodies soon collapsed to the ground, and bloodied treasures rolling out from their pockets. Treasures inside the Fiend Celestial's tomb should not be touched, indeed, greed would attract the hidden monster. Boom! A loud crash sounded out from somewhere nearby. Yi Qingtang saw an imperious-looking elder frowning and with his hands lifted. He held no sword, but his spirit energy had morphed into the shape of one as he slashed at the approaching monster. Emperor-level practitioner. Yi Qingtang was startled. The elder had an extremely powerful aura, and it was apparent that he was not an ordinary cultivator. This was a true blue emperor-level practitioner. Even in the second domain, an emperor-level practitioner was an elite existence. This elder was extraordinarily powerful. One of the factions must have sent him here to explore the Fiend Celestial's tomb. But at that moment, the elder was not at all relaxed. He even looked somewhat wretched. The monster beneath appeared completely unharmed even after he slashed at it. Its speed didn't decrease as it barreled out of the treasure pile. Heavenly Tyrant Constitution. The elder gave a low shout. A golden beam of light engulfed him and all the treasures near him were blown away. His body seemed to be stained by the golden light, such that his skin was now giving off a dazzling golden sheen. Chapter 2273, Exploring the Tomb Again, 3, That black shadow pounced forward. It completely engulfed the golden light radiating from the elder. In the blink of an eye, the Heavenly Tyrant Constitution's powerful aura completely vanished. The black shadow once again burrowed into the treasure pile, leaving behind a pool of fresh blood on the surface. Yi Qingtang watched as that Emperor-level practitioner launched an Emperor-level defense, only to be completely hapless before the black figure's attack. At this moment, she realized that the power of that black shadow was already far beyond that of an Emperor-level practitioner. There were still many people inside the treasure trove who were trying to escape. They looked just like lambs being prepped for slaughter. Yi Qingtang quietly took a deep breath. She was very sure that she was no match for that black shadow. After all, even that Emperor-level practitioner was not able to leave this treasure trove in one piece. How could she stand a chance? But, she had to get that evil fruit. Yi Qingtang scanned the treasure trove. With her previous experience, she already knew that as long as she didn't touch anything here, that black figure would not attack her. The evil fruit was growing on that demon tree and that tree was very near the exit. And the black figure was presently occupied with the other men running around the treasure trove. Perhaps she could take this opportunity to go near the demon tree, quickly pick that evil fruit and sprint toward the exit. Yi Qingtang's mind raced. The men from the various factions had probably taken the items here, incurring the wrath of the black figure protecting this place. The black shadow would never let a single person off. This might be a good chance for her. Steadying her heart, Yi Qingtang swallowed several bottles of elixirs before sneaking across the blood-drenched treasure trove. Piteous cries from the various factions echoed endlessly around. They were paying the price for their greed. Heaven knew how thrilled and eager they had been when they saw this treasure trove, filled with jewels and artifacts all ripe for the taking. But this place had ended up being their burial ground. Yi Qingtang circled around those fleeing men, heading straight for the demon tree. As she expected, as long as she didn't touch anything, the black shadow paid no attention to her. Soon enough, she reached the demon tree. Looking up, she quickly located the evil fruit. But she was in no big hurry to grab it. She surveyed the treasure trove and paid close attention to where the black figure was. Only when the black shadow had pursued a group of men to a spot furthest away from her location did Yi Qingtang's eyes flicker. It was now or never. Yi Qingtang flew up onto the tree and picked the evil fruit as fast as she could. But the moment her hand touched the evil fruit, a loud roar sounded out. The entire treasure trove shook intensely. The black figure which was hidden beneath the treasures erupted in rage, rocking the entire sea of treasures, turning them all upside down. At this moment, everyone finally saw the true form of that black figure. It was a massive black snake. When its body was finally revealed, everyone could see that it was extremely mammoth in size, spanning the entire treasure trove. And those treasures were just piled upon the body of that snake. Chapter 2274, Black Snake, 1. The enraged black snake, which had been toying around with those intruders before killing them, had now lost all patience. The moment its massive body emerged, all living beings inside the treasure trove were immediately crushed into meat pulp. No one even had the chance to struggle. There was no hope for survival at all. The moment they stepped into the treasure trove and took a treasure, they had been condemned to death. After all, they were already standing on the body of that monster. As the black snake pulverized everyone, its blood-red eyes were fixated upon Yi Qingtang at the demon tree. Shit! This was bad. Yi Qingtang's heart leaped. It was too late to let go now. Stuffing the evil fruit into her space ring, she pelted towards the tunnel at the back. Roar! The black snake erupted like a wild beast. Cold sweat drenched Yi Qingtang's back. She had initially found it very strange. Those fleeing men could split up in different directions so that at least some would have the chance to escape while the black shadow was busy with the others. But now, after witnessing the body of that black snake, Yi Qingtang finally understood the reason. Everyone had underestimated the size of that black snake. It was everywhere. Yi Qingtang felt like throwing up blood. If she had known that snake was so big, she wouldn't have taken such a huge risk. The various factions had touched the treasures in this treasure trove, which triggered the murderous pursuit by that black snake. But the black snake had revealed its entire body only after Yi Qingtang picked that evil fruit. It was clear that the treasures growing on that demon tree were far more valuable than any of the other things in that treasure trove. Yi Qingtang was already fleeing as fast as she could. But that black snake moved at an astounding speed. In the blink of an eye, it was already right behind Yi Qingtang. Heart leaping out of her throat, Yi Qingtang instinctively thought of using the Night Soul Beast to block. But the Night Soul Beast by her side also looked extremely terrified. As if it was also very frightened of that black snake. What was going on? Weren't the Night Soul Beast and that black snake both guardians of the Fiend Celestial's tomb? Why would the Night Soul Beast also be attacked by the black snake? Yi Qingtang could not confirm but had no time to dally. Gritting her teeth, she dashed with all her might toward the tunnel. There was no time to bother about anything else. She could only try her best to flee. Going by her memory, Yi Qingtang charged straight into the hibernation area of the Night Soul Beasts. Previously, those night soul beasts had been in hibernation, but perhaps they were now awake and hanging around the cave. Dashing into the cave, Yiqing saw the densely packed crowd of night soul beasts. They looked like they were still sleeping, sprawled together in one tightly packed herd. Whether she would live or die, it would be determined by this gamble. Yiqing could already feel the breath of the black snake on her back. Slamming her eyes shut, she pounced toward the herd of slumbering night soul beasts. The night soul beast with Yiqing had wanted to make use of the black snake to get rid of this human. But its face completely fell when it saw Yiqing luring that snake into the night soul beast's lair. What was this human trying to do? The night soul beast was about to go insane. Although the night soul beasts and black snake were both guardians of the tomb, they were from entirely different races and stood guard over different areas. Chapter 2275, Black Snake, 2. It could be said that those two never really got the chance to meet. This was the first time the night soul beast saw the real form of the black snake. Once the black snake attacked, it would be a senseless killing machine. It only knew to keep attacking. So it was natural the night soul beasts would never go provoking this kind of dangerous being. But now, the night soul beast was despondent. Yiqing dived straight into the herd of night soul beasts, closely followed by that black snake, who pounced with its jaws wide open. As she was petite, she managed to squeeze into a gap right between a few night soul beasts. But that black snake was massive and one snap of its jaws slashed the bodies of those night soul beasts into halves. Night soul beasts were not made of flesh and blood. They consumed souls for food and their bodies were only part matter. Attacked in the middle of their hibernation, those night soul beasts immediately woke up. When they came to their senses, they realized that it was the black snake, the guardian of the next-door treasure trove, that was attacking them. Roar! Those night soul beasts who were injured gave warning roars. The night soul beasts and black snake were two different races and they had always stayed out of each other's way. Who would have thought that the black snake would suddenly attack them? Those night soul beasts were very big and after being enraged by the attack, they were completely oblivious to the guilty party hidden amongst them. The black snake was still focused on Yiqing. It would only pursue those who took a treasure. It had no interest in those night soul beasts at all. The black snake opened its jaws again and attacked the spot where Yiqing was hidden. Those night soul beasts saw that the black snake was attacking once more and immediately roared again. Their roars were like thunder, echoing throughout the entire cave. The other slumbering night soul beasts were awakened by those roars. In the blink of an eye, countless night soul beasts were awakened. The night soul beasts had no idea what was happening. They just knew that right after waking up, they saw the black snake attacking their own kind. The night soul beasts all roared in unison. One-on-one, they were no match for the black snake but they had an advantage in numbers now. They would never actively provoke the black snake but now that it was madly attacking them, they would not just lay down and wait for death. In the blink of an eye, countless night soul beasts pounced toward the mad, black snake. Soon enough, the colossal body of the black snake was engulfed by countless night soul beasts. The black snake was powerful but those night soul beasts were no weaklings either. And they had numbers on their side. In addition, the night soul beasts' bodies were only half solid and they could not be completely eradicated. For a moment there, the black snake was trapped by all those beasts, unable to shake them off. Yiqing saw that her plan had worked. Not daring to delay a second longer, she grabbed her night soul beast and fled out of the cave. She did not dare to leave her night soul beast, who knew what had really happened, behind in the cave. If it ratted her out to its friends, wouldn't both the black snake and night soul beasts chase her to the ends of the earth? Yiqing understood now. The black snake and night soul beasts were both guardians of the tomb. But the two of them did not interact at all. It was because of this that such a fortuitous misunderstanding had arisen. Chapter 2276, Black Snake, 3. The night soul beast who had been dragged away by Yiqing could only watch as its own kind were tricked into fighting with that black snake. It looked extremely aggrieved. Despicable. Shameless. Yi Qingtang heaved a secret sigh of relief. Following her memory, she located the exit and was prepared to leave as soon as possible. But the moment she saw the exit, the entire tomb suddenly shook violently. It was like the entire tomb was about to collapse. Shocked, she tried her best to steady herself. But the powerful vibrations threw her to the other side. Bam! Yi Qingtang crashed into the wall at the side of the exit. A large crack appeared on the wall where Yi Qingtang crashed into it. Before she could steady herself, a second wave of violent tremors came. This time, she ended up completely crashing straight through the wall. She and the Night Soul Beast both fell into the wall. The ground continued to shake and Yi Qingtang was unable to see at all in the darkness. She did not dare to move, fearing that she had inadvertently landed in another region of the tomb. Who knew what kind of trap would be triggered if she moved? After a long time, the vibrations finally stopped. Only then did Yi Qingtang manage to see her surroundings clearly. It was a completely sealed-off secret room. It was not very big and there appeared to be nothing strange about it. Yi Qingtang did not remember hearing about such a room in her previous life. Yi Qingtang was in no mood to examine this secret room. She wanted to escape back into the hole in the wall, and leave this tomb immediately. But just as Yi Qingtang was prepared to leave, a massive black figure appeared at the hole in the wall. Familiar blood-red eyes shone directly through the hole. Yi Qingtang felt like all the blood in her body had instantly frozen. The black snake had already shaken off those Night Soul Beasts and caught up with her. Now, standing on the other side of the wall, it was looking right at her through that hole. Doomed, she couldn't escape after all. It was as if Yi Qingtang could feel her own death approaching. Being forced into this secret room, she had nowhere to run. She could only stand there and be slaughtered by that black snake. Yi Qingtang was resigned to her fate. But, the black snake suddenly moved and those blood-red eyes swiveled, as it was looking at something else, and not at Yi Qingtang. The black snake didn't attack. It just kept swaying its head, as if trying to look for something. Yi Qingtang was confused. The black snake's attacks had always been swift and direct. She had taken the evil fruit from the demon tree and there was no reason for the black snake to hesitate. Just as Yi Qingtang was feeling puzzled, that black snake suddenly lifted its head and banged it into the hole. Yi Qingtang was startled. The black snake was finally breaking into this secret room to kill her. But a strange scene played out before Yi Qingtang. As that black snake banged into the hole, it seemed to be banging against some invisible force. With a loud crash, it remained separated on the outside of the secret room. There seemed to be something around that hole, which was blocking the advancement of the black snake. Frustrated, the black snake kept banging against the wall but was completely unable to enter the secret room. Its eyes scanned the area but never really landed on Yi Qingtang. Chapter 2277, Secret Room, 1, That feeling, it was like it could not see Yi Qingtang at all, but could only feel her aura behind that wall. What was going on? Yi Qingtang was puzzled. Even in her previous life, Yi Qingtang did not hear anything about this secret room. Not only that, in her previous life, apart from the Night Soul Beasts, there had been no information regarding the black snake either. If Yi Qingtang hadn't personally experienced it, she had no idea that a black snake existed inside the treasure trove. What the hell went wrong? Could it be that several hundred years later, the black snake had already disappeared by the time the various factions entered the Fiend Celestial's tomb? And what about this secret room? Yi Qingtang felt increasingly puzzled. This black snake's powers were terrifying. It could easily kill even an emperor-level practitioner and so many Night Soul Beasts only managed to delay it for a short while. But this secret room was able to completely block the black snake. After confirming that the black snake could not see her and could not enter the secret room, Yi Qingtang finally turned her attention to this room. There was nothing inside. But an ancient and mysterious-looking array formation was drawn on the floor. Looking at the patterns drawn on 8 sides of the array formation, Yi Qingtang found them strangely familiar. Weren't they the patterns she had seen in the Night Soul Beast's cave earlier? But the patterns in the cave had been singular, while in this secret room, they were merged into an array formation. What kind of array formation is this? Yi Qingtang narrowed her eyes. This pattern was strangely familiar. She felt like she had also seen this somewhere else apart from the cave. But for the moment, Yi Qingtang could not recall the exact location. Separated by a single wall, the black snake was still trying to get into the secret room. But this secret room seemed to possess a special power, completely sealing the snake off on the outside. With the black snake keeping guard outside the hole, there was no way Yi Qingtang would go through it. So she just sat down cross-legged and took out the evil fruit from her space ring. The evil fruit was pitch black and laid quietly in Yi Qingtang's hand. Yi Qingtang shook her head. She had risked her life for this evil fruit. Now that she had it, Yi Qingtang didn't intend to waste it. Since she couldn't leave for now, she might as well use this evil fruit first. Holding the evil fruit between her palms and crossing all 10 fingers, Yi Qingtang shut her eyes and slowly guided the evil fruit's energy toward her heart. Time passed by the second, which slowly stretched into minutes. The evil fruit's energy was gradually being absorbed by Yi Qingtang. That energy transformed into a shapeless aura, slowly seeping into the heart of the heavenly Tao. The seal, which had been loose for some time, started to mend with the infusion of that aura. It was like a net being gradually weaved. Bit by bit, the heart of the heavenly Tao's aura was once again sealed off. Completely focused on sealing her heart of the heavenly Tao, Yi Qingtang didn't notice that wisps of foggy air had suddenly appeared. As Yi Qingtang guided the evil fruit's energy, that fog moved away from the array formation and started being absorbed into her body. Standing by the side, the night soul beast was filled with shock at the sight. But Yi Qingtang was concentrating on taking care of her heart of the heavenly Tao now and did not notice anything at all. Chapter 2278, Secret Room, 2. It was only after Yi Qingtang completely absorbed the evil fruit's energy that she opened her eyes. Opening her hands, she found that the evil fruit had disappeared, as if it had never existed. Suddenly, the black snake stopped banging against the wall. It appeared somewhat dazed. Swaying its head a little, it suddenly turned and slithered back to the treasure trove. What happened? Why did it leave? Don't tell me there are others who have barged into the treasure trove. Yi Qingtang stared at the departing black snake in surprise. She felt somewhat confused. By the side, the night soul beast glanced at Yi Qingtang before lifting one paw and gestured at the empty space between her hands. Yi Qingtang instantly understood the night soul beast's hint. You are saying that the evil fruit is gone, so the black snake has lost its target? Yi Qingtang asked. The night soul beast nodded. It finally understood that this human was too sly. Now that the black snake had run off, it was near impossible for it to try and cause her death now. Yi Qingtang's eyes lit up. But she didn't dare to fully believe the night soul beast. Although the black snake had left, who knew if it was just a pretense to try and lure her out? Yi Qingtang placed caution above all. She did not intend to leave immediately. She had to observe for a further period of time first, to make sure that the black snake had really departed. As she waited and examined her heart of the heavenly Tao situation, the seal was fully repaired and it should be able to hold for at least half a year. It is indeed a treasure left behind by the Fiend Celestial. Very effective. Yi Qingtang stretched and inadvertently realized that she seemed to have gained a strange power. Don't tell me that by absorbing that evil fruit, not only can it form a seal, it can also increase my power. Yi Qingtang was surprised. But she soon realized that the new power inside her body gave off a different feeling than the evil fruit. They were two completely different energies. What was going on? Glancing down, Yi Qingtang's gaze landed on the array formation on the floor. Was she imagining things, or did the array formation seem to exude a faint glow now? Yi Qingtang had an idea. She circulated the spirit energy inside her body and tried to cultivate it. Since the energy didn't come from the evil fruit, that meant it could only have come from this secret room. Even the black snake couldn't enter this secret room. So it could be seen just how much power it possessed. If she was correct, this array formation was the key. Yi Qingtang started cultivating. She didn't close her eyes this time and saw everything that happened with the array formation. Wisps of foggy mist rose continuously from the array formation and were absorbed into Yi Qingtang's body. That new power in her body became increasingly thick. In addition, as she cultivated, that strange energy was gradually being transformed and completely absorbed into her body. Even more astonishing was that the energy was very pure. She had never experienced something like that before. In just a few seconds, she could already feel an intense feeling from the energy she had absorbed. She had been suppressing her cultivation stage and storing her excess powers. If she didn't do that, that bit of energy she had absorbed would be enough for her break through a heaven level. What kind of formidable array formation was that? So remarkable. Don't tell me this is also something left behind by the Fiend Celestial. Yi Qingtang's eyes lit up. She had really come across a real treasure this time. Chapter 2279, Secret Room, 3. Originally Yi Qingtang had been eager to leave, but now, she had no intention of leaving so soon. She had never heard anyone talk about this array formation in her previous life. It was undeniable that it was very effective. There was no way Yi Qingtang would miss out on such an amazing cultivation ground. Focusing her mind once more, Yi Qingtang started to absorb the aura coming out from the array formation. As she cultivated, Yi Qingtang didn't notice a nondescript black ball hidden at the ceiling of the secret room. As the black snake killed, the black ball absorbed the souls of countless powerful practitioners. But once Yi Qingtang entered the secret room and sat down on the array formation to cultivate, the energy stored inside the black ball was transformed by the array formation and then absorbed into Yi Qingtang's body. The feeling of absorbing this kind of energy was very miraculous. Albeit strange, somehow it could slowly be transformed. It was like something had already pre-cultivated this energy before. As Yi Qingtang cultivated, the energy stored inside the hidden black ball was also being drawn out by the array formation. The feeling of having one's powers rapidly increased was intoxicating. Yi Qingtang seemed to forget her surroundings and her fatigue, fully concentrated on cultivating. It was like she was submerged in darkness, with countless streams of light flashing by and then shooting straight into her body. After a long time, Yi Qingtang felt like the power she had been storing had reached its maximum level. Finally she opened her eyes, which glimmered with delight. There was a limit to Yi Qingtang's way of cultivating while suppressing her cultivation stage. If she stored too much power, she would not be able to continue cultivating. She had to release this restriction. But she had a good amount of energy stored. Yi Qingtang could already feel her body was filled with energy just waiting to be released. She was not sure after unleashing that energy, how high her powers would increase. A conservative estimate would be an increase of at least 3 to 4 heaven levels. She was now at the Paragon's 6th heaven level. If she removed the restriction, it should be no problem for her to reach the 9th heaven level. If the effects were good, she might even reach the Divine Lord stage. In the second domain, Yi Qingtang's powers were considered mediocre. And this energy came from the second domain itself, so it was naturally extremely effective. Yi Qingtang tried again. She confirmed that the amount of energy she had stored was already at maximum levels. After unleashing it, she would definitely ascend to a higher cultivation stage, but she did not dare to do that here. After all, she always placed caution above everything else. Standing up, Yi Qingtang peered out of the hole. During this period, although she had been cultivating, she did not let down her guard at all. But she didn't spot any signs of the black snake returning. After observing for a while longer, and confirming that the black snake was nowhere near, she prepared to leave the secret room. But before that, Yi Qingtang studied the array formation. This array formation was so useful. She planned to go back and analyze it further. Another idea popped into her head. She already got what she wanted from the Fiend Celestial's tomb. Now that the evil fruit had been absorbed, the black snake would no longer target her. She didn't desire any other item in the treasure trove either. After she released the restriction on her stored energy, perhaps she could find another opportunity to return and continue cultivating. Once she had decided, Yi Qingtang finally led the Night Soul Beast out of the secret room. Chapter 2280, Moving Up, 1. Leaving the secret room and returning to the tunnel, Yi Qingtang suddenly realized something. The hole in which she had entered the secret room had disappeared. Right in front of her was a complete and whole wall. Did the crack mend itself? Taken aback, Yi Qingtang instinctively reached out. Her hand passed right through the wall. Yi Qingtang instantly understood. No wonder the black snake looked like it couldn't see me. So this secret room has this kind of illusion. Yi Qingtang lowered her eyes and saw a pile of shattered rocks on the ground. The illusion of the wall mending itself was probably created by the array formation in the secret room. Understanding this, Yi Qingtang hurried over to the exit. After recovering her vision, Yi Qingtang was now outside the entrance. She saw quite a number of people around the area. But those people were from the various factions and they were just about to enter the tomb. They were all focused on the tomb and did not realize the sudden appearance of Yi Qingtang. Yi Qingtang knew how dangerous it was inside the tomb. But even if she were to warn everyone here, they would probably not believe her. Instead, they would suspect her of having ulterior motives and might even kill her. Before the crowd could notice her presence, Yi Qingtang quietly snuck off. Soon enough, she returned to the campsite with the Night Soul Beast. At this point, Lei Yan and the rest looked very forlorn. The faces of the teenagers were covered in dirt and dust. Where did boss go? It's already been so long. Why is he not back yet? Did something happen to him? Lei Yan spoke despondently. After Yi Qingtang told them that she had to go settle some affairs, she disappeared without a trace and had not returned since. At first, the teenagers didn't feel anything amiss. But as time passed, they started to feel anxious. Nangong Lai smacked Lei Yan on the back of the head. Shut your inauspicious mouth. Who do you think boss is? He is someone who can make a Night Soul Beast as tame as a cat. What can possibly happen to him? Stop making such wild guesses. Nangong Lai might be saying that, but in his heart, he was also feeling rather anxious. Originally they had planned to go and look for Yi Qing, but the number of factions entering the Evil Soul Forest had increased over this period. With the prior incident still looming over their heads, they didn't dare to venture out. Boss was weaker than them, but somehow, they had a certain level of faith in him. Especially after their experience in the Fiend Celestial's tomb. They just felt that nothing was too difficult for their boss to overcome. Yun Chen, Qin Feng, and the rest also looked anxious. Yi Qing's continued absence caused the hearts of those teenagers to sink even deeper. Over time, they had started to regard Yi Qing as some kind of spiritual leader. They were useless garbage disdained by the entire academy. Yi Qing was the only one who chose not to give up on them. Ahem, let's not talk about this anymore. I say, Qin Feng, your powers have increased tremendously. I think you must be close to the Divine Lord stage now. Nangong Lai changed the subject. Slightly taken aback, Qin Feng nodded. At most another 2 weeks. Nangong Lai gasped. Amazing. My brother is so awesome. Qin Feng remained silent. His powers had been declining so much that he had given up on himself. But unexpectedly, under Yi Qing's guidance, his powers started to increase again. In fact, his formerly declining powers started to improve rapidly. Previously, he was already close to the Divine Lord stage. Now that his powers were rising again, it was only natural that his rate of progress was faster than others. Chapter 2281, Moving Up, 2, Sigh. I say, am I missing boss too much? Somehow, I feel that tree looks like him. Lei Yan rubbed his chin. The corners of Nangong Lai's lips twitched. You've gone mad. Now, whatever you look at will appear like, damn. Boss. You really are back. The teenagers had been grumbling amongst themselves. And now, Yi Qing had really returned. Boss, Mu Ziying stood up and looked at Yi Qing, and the rims of her eyes turned red. What's the matter? Did those brats bully you when I was away? Yi Qing Tang did not try to hide her preferential treatment toward girls. She caressed Mu Ziying's head. Hey! Little senior sister, don't say things that aren't true. We didn't do anything to you. Lei Yan immediately tried to defend himself. Who didn't know that Mu Ziying was Boss' precious baby? Who would dare to bully her? Boss, you're finally back. If you still hadn't returned, Lei Yan would start seeing you in every object. Nangong Lai wisely changed the subject. Standing by the side, Jing Zhe, Yun Chen and Qin Feng all heaved a sigh of relief on seeing Yi Qing's return. They were not like those two bubbly, extroverted boys and mostly kept their emotions to themselves. Shut up. How can you talk badly about me the moment boss returns? Can you live with yourself? Lei Yan chided Nangong Lai. Yi Qingtang's mood lightened quite a bit on seeing this bunch of noisy brats. But she soon noticed that their powers had increased significantly during her absence. Every single one of them had risen by at least 1 or 2 heaven levels. Yi Qingtang was astonished by this discovery. You lot have been very hard-working during this time. Yi Qingtang was pleased. Of course. Boss, while you were away this entire month, we've been training non-stop. Lei Yan reported smugly, just waiting for Yi Qing to praise him. Yi Qingtang was taken aback. A month? I've been away a whole month. Inside the secret room, Yi Qingtang was immersed in her cultivation and didn't feel the passage of time. She thought that she had only been in the secret room for a few days, but, that's right, boss. You were away for a whole month. Yun Chen nodded. Yi Qingtang looked slightly bewildered. She didn't expect to have lingered in the secret room for an entire month. Yun Chen and Qin Feng were the most sensitive and they sensed that Yi Qing seemed to be unaware just how long he had been away. Meanwhile, the simple-minded Lei Yan and Nangong Lai did not notice anything amiss. Now that Yi Qing had returned, all they wanted to do was to show him how much they had progressed over the past month. Rising by 1 to 2 heaven levels in a month was something they had never even dared to imagine. All of them had been enrolled in the Netherworld Academy for at least a year. But their powers had not seen much improvement. Now, after being under Yi Qing for only a short period of time, their powers had progressed so significantly. It was not difficult to understand why those teenagers were practically worshipping Yi Qing like a god. Yi Qingtang looked on as they exhibited their powers. She didn't appear surprised. In reality, Lei Yan and the rest were blessed with pretty good innate talents. Otherwise, with their previous powers and cultivation attitudes, they would have already been kicked out of the Netherworld Academy a long time ago. The Academy wouldn't have waited so long to do so. Chapter 2282, Moving Up, 3, Their biggest problem was that their cultivation methods were unsuitable. The current state of martial arts was not that developed or open-minded and the major academies taught their students using only their own methods. But the methods they used might not be suitable for every single student. It was only 300 years later that martial arts underwent a major overhaul. The various academies started to accept other styles of teaching. From then on, the number of powerful practitioners in the second domain increased exponentially. It was no longer that difficult to ascend to the Divine Lord stage. Yi Qingtang had lived through that era and brought her knowledge of martial arts from that period to the present. She also brought with her a much advanced culture of martial arts. Methods which continuously developed a practitioner's innate potential were the most suitable for Lei Yan and his gang. On top of that, Yi Qingtang had brought Lei Yan and the rest to the Evil Soul Forest, to gain some real battle experience with the beasts here. This kind of practice was far more effective than the inflexible and mechanical teaching methods of the Academy. One could only unleash your true potential in a real battle. Furthermore, their experience in the Fiend Celestial's tomb had opened the teenagers' eyes to a brand new world. Having experienced such a highly stressful and extremely dangerous environment, those pampered teenagers realized the wide disparity between themselves and the powerful practitioners in the world. That had motivated them to practice even harder. Not bad. After seeing everyone's progress, hints of a smile surfaced in Yiqing's eyes. You guys can take a rest for the next couple of days. After, I will take you to a sacred cultivation ground. Sacred cultivation ground? Boss, were you gone during this period because you were helping us find a sacred cultivation ground? Lei Yan asked with sparkling eyes. Yiqing nodded. Thrilled, the teenagers started cheering. Shaking her head in amusement, Yiqing smiled at their delighted faces. She hoped that they could still maintain this level of excitement when they arrived at the sacred cultivation ground. During this period, an endless stream of factions had entered the evil soul forest. After observing for a while, Yiqing found a spot of time when they could avoid the factions, and led Lei Yan and the rest out of their camp. The teenagers had been so excited and impatient to see this sacred cultivation ground mentioned by Yiqing. They could hardly conceal their excitement as they made their way there. But they had now once again arrived at the entrance of the Fiend Celestial's tomb. The teenagers could barely maintain the smiles on their faces. Boss, why did you bring us here? Lei Yan asked carefully. To go to the sacred cultivation ground, Yiqing replied, deadpan. The teenagers were all dumbstruck. Even Mu Ziying, who held the most faith in Yiqing, was also stunned. Let's go. Not giving them any time to digest this information, Yiqing walked through the large door. Lei Yan and the rest stood there in a daze outside, watching as Yiqing entered that place which had given them endless nightmares. They broke out in goosebumps. Is boss playing a joke on us? Sacred cultivation ground? The Fiend Celestial's tomb. Lei Yan felt like crying. Qin Feng exchanged looks with Jing Zhe and Yun Chen before being the first to follow Yiqing. Soon after, Jing Zhe and the others followed as well. Lei Yan saw that he was the only one left outside. Sighing, he resigned himself to his fate and dashed in. Chapter 2283, Moving Up, 4, the sight of that dank and dark tomb, along with the terrifyingly familiar matrix path. Just thinking of it made Lei Yan's hair stand on end. Previously, Mu Ziying had been knocked unconscious and so she didn't have much memory of the matrix path. Everything she knew had been told to her by Lei Yan and the others. Now that she was seeing the countless evil demon statues firsthand, the amount of bloodied flesh and corpses seemed to be much more than what Lei Yan and the others had described previously. The teenagers had no idea why Yiqing would want to come to this godforsaken place. But since Boss was already leading the way, they had no choice but to steel their resolve and follow him. Luckily they had already been through once, and so although still very fearful, they didn't panic. After passing the matrix path and the illusory doors, Yiqing led them through the boundless river. They were now once again at the treasure trove. But it was different from the previous time. Throughout this whole journey, the smell of blood was more intense, with piles of bodies as high as mountains. It transformed this tomb into a hell on earth. Yiqing was very careful when she entered the treasure trove. She only led the group forward after making sure the black snake had no intention of making an appearance. Halfway, Yiqing surveyed the treasures at the side and noticed a severed head that was already decaying. That head was much smaller than an adult's and looked like it belonged to a child. But the decay made it such that the features were no longer discernible. However, Yiqing saw an exquisite earring on the rotting ear. It was the demon child's earring. Yiqing gave a quiet sigh. During her observation of the evil soul forest the past few days, she didn't see any night soul beasts. The hibernation period seemed to be endlessly prolonged. The hibernation period of the night soul beasts should be only 3 to 4 days. But now, there seemed to be no end to it. Without the night soul beasts around, the various factions would feel that the evil soul forest was much less dangerous. If not for this hibernation period, none of the major factions would dare to come here. But why were the night soul beasts all still in hibernation? Yiqing was puzzled. They arrived at the cave filled with slumbering night soul beasts. They looked as if they had never been awakened. Yiqing carefully led the teenagers past the sleeping beasts. Lei Yan and the rest had been on high alert the entire journey. They were also very curious about this sacred cultivation ground mentioned by Yi Qing. But as they followed Yi Qing, they realized. Wasn't this the way out of the Fiend Celestial's tomb? What was Boss trying to do? They were nearly out of this place now. But when they arrived at the exit, Yi Qing suddenly stopped. Scanning the surrounding walls, she lifted her hand and reached out according to her memory. The teenagers found it very strange at first but were completely stunned after they saw Yi Qing's hand pass right through the wall. After confirming that she could still access the secret room, Yi Qing Tang had Mu Ziying and the rest directly enter. The teenagers passed through the illusion and entered the secret room. Their faces were filled with astonishment. What is this place? Boss, how did you discover this place? Yi Qing Tang didn't say anything. Back then she had accidentally stumbled across this room. But since it was a great place to cultivate, of course she had to make good use of it. Just sit down on this array formation and start cultivating. Chapter 2284, Moving Up, 5, Yi Qing Tang had already planned this from the previous time as she was leaving the tomb. There was not that much time left until the Inter-Academy competition, so she had to use every possible means to improve their powers in the fastest time possible. Moreover, Yi Qing Tang had planned to release her restrained cultivation stage when back in camp. But when she circulated the aura in her body, she had accidentally activated the deity ocean. Yi Qing Tang's suppression on her cultivation stage had been maxed out. But as the power of the deity ocean spread, quite a bit of extra space appeared. This meant that Yi Qing Tang could continue to cultivate using her cultivation stage suppression technique. If all went according to plan. If she could cultivate for more time in the secret room, she would ascend straight to the Divine Lord's stage after removing the restraints. The teenagers didn't know what Yi Qing was thinking, but they obediently followed Yi Qing's instructions and started to cultivate. As they cultivated, they soon realized there was something different about this secret room. Pure energy surged continuously into their bodies, greatly delighting those teenagers. There were many sacred cultivation grounds in the various academies which could enhance the speed of cultivation. But the criteria to enter those sacred grounds were very strict. Amongst them, only Qin Feng had visited such places. Even so, Qin Feng felt that the effectiveness of this secret room was far better than even the best sacred cultivation ground in those academies. They all knew that if Yi Qing had not personally led them here, they would never have found this place. Even if they knew how to survive the matrix path and illusory doors, they would be stumped at the boundless river. They had to shut their senses and it was Yi Qing who led them through the river. That was the only way they had managed to pass through. Knowing that this was a rare opportunity to cultivate this way, the teenagers poured their hearts into their cultivation. After Yi Qing Tang made sure that they had all entered into a state of cultivation, she finally started to cultivate herself. Inside the secret room, one could not tell the passing of day and night. The endless stream of energy surging into their bodies intoxicated those teenagers, who all dreamed of becoming more powerful. It was like time did not exist in this room. They had no idea how long they had spent cultivating and didn't care. All they wanted was to continue absorbing, continue cultivating. When Yi Qing Tang felt that her suppressed energy had once again reached the maximum level, she gradually woke up from her cultivation state. The others were still cultivating. Yi Qing Tang took out a piece of jade from her pocket. The jade clearly indicated how much time had passed since she started cultivating. This was something Yi Qing Tang had prepared before coming here. She did not wish to become too immersed in cultivation and end up missing the Inter-Academy competition. So she had set a specific period on that piece of jade so that if she was still cultivating when that time was up, the jade would wake her up. Yi Qing Tang glanced about. This time, she had spent more than a month cultivating here. It had been an even longer period than the previous session. It was rather strange. She thought that she could suppress and store at most an additional 30% of energy, but after the influence of the deity ocean, the amount of energy she could store had more than doubled. Yi Qing Tang made a quick mental calculation of the time. The inter-academy competition was still several months away, but the academies would select their top students for the competition before that. It was time for them to return. Chapter 2285, Moving Up, 6, Yi Qingtang surveyed the teenagers who were still immersed in their cultivation. Astonishment flashed across her eyes. Lei Yan and the others had already spent more than a month training in the Evil Soul Forest. Everyone's powers had increased significantly. Even the weakest of them had already reached the Paragon 8th heaven level. And now, after cultivating in this secret room for over a month, Lei Yan and the rest had all surged up to the Divine Lord stage. Yi Qingtang was shocked by this development. It should be pointed out that although the Divine Lord stage was the next major stage after Paragon, it was very difficult to ascend from one stage to the next. Many people ended up stuck at the Paragon 9th heaven level forever, unable to progress any further. But now, Yi Qingtang had brought 6 students up to the Divine Lord stage in one hit. She hadn't expected this at all. Even in a high-level academy like the Netherworld Academy, students at the Divine Lord stage would be considered elite in status. But Lei Yan and the others had just ascended the Divine Lord stage. They would need a period of time to stabilize their powers before they could become true Divine Lord stage practitioners. Even so, it was still astounding. Amongst them, Qin Feng's progress was the most apparent. Previously, he was already a prodigy who had been just one step away from ascending to the Divine Lord stage. It was only because of his mental demons that his powers started to decline. Now that his mental demons had been dispelled, his powers were improving at a rapid pace. Currently, he was already at the peak Divine Lord First Heaven level. Just a little more and he would be able to reach the Second Heaven level. It should be pointed out that at the Divine Lord stages and above, the disparity between the different heaven levels was immense. Lei Yan and the others might also be at the Divine Lord First Heaven level, but the gap between an early stage and a peak First Heaven level was very wide. Qin Feng alone could annihilate Lei Yan and the other 5 without too much effort. This result was better than Yi Qingtang's expectations. But she noticed that the rate of progress was different amongst the teenagers. Perhaps it was related to their individual innate potential, or perhaps different people could absorb different amounts of energy from the array formation. Nonetheless, the result had still far surpassed Yi Qingtang's expectations. She woke the teenagers up from their cultivation. Having been woken up by Yi Qingtang in the middle of their cultivation, they were all still bleary-eyed. They felt like they had been suddenly pulled out of a limitless world. Everyone was still in a daze. Yi Qingtang was in no hurry. She patiently waited for them to recover their senses. Lei Yan shook his head and recovered some of his clarity. He then widened his eyes in shock. Damn! I'm at the Divine Lord stage already? His shout immediately snapped the rest out of their trance. After recovering their senses, they soon realized that they had all ascended to the long-desired Divine Lord stage. What the heck? They exchanged looks, feeling very surreal. If they hadn't come to this secret room, even if they gained enlightenment and cultivated extra hard, apart from Qin Feng, the others would need at least 5 years to ascend to the Divine Lord stage. But how long had they been cultivating? They were now at the Divine Lord stage. Boss, don't tell me that we have been cultivating here for more than 5 years. Jing Zhe widened his eyes in a daze, staring at his hands. This feeling, he really suspected that he was dreaming. No way. Did we really cultivate for that long? Nangong Lai swallowed hard. Feeling the surge of powerful energy in his body, even the usually calm Yun Chen was feeling rather shaken. Chapter 2286, Where did the energy go? 1. Boss, how long have we been cultivating? The group looked at Yi Qing. They were worried that she would say 3 to 5 years. Yi Qingtang was amused. Don't worry, not that long. You have been cultivating here for just over a month. What? Over a month? The group was shocked. Was this a joke? This was even more unbelievable than if he had told them they had been cultivating for 3 to 5 years. Just over a month, and it was enough to make this group of Paragon 9th Heaven level people surge right up to Divine Lord level? Was he joking? Snap out of it. It's about time to return to the academy, Yi Qing reminded them. Yi Qingtang was not entirely sure when the Netherworld Academy would select their candidates. It was safer to return earlier. The teenagers had yet to fully recover from their shock and joy. Still in a daze, they followed Yi Qing out of the secret room and out of the exit. The Night Soul Beast instinctively prepared to follow suit. But right before stepping out, Yi Qingtang suddenly stopped. The Night Soul Beast stared vigilantly at this cunning human. I am leaving. Thank you for your help during this period of time. Yi Qingtang gave a slight smile. As the Night Soul Beast looked on in puzzlement, she released it from their contract. The Night Soul Beast was utterly shocked. There are so many traps in the tomb, plus there is that black snake and your fellow Night Soul Beast standing guard inside. It should be very safe. We will meet again in the future if fate allows it. Yi Qingtang waved at the Night Soul Beast and stepped out of the exit. A strange expression crossed the face of the Night Soul Beast as it watched Yi Qingtang's departing profile. After Yi Qingtang and the group emerged, they headed straight toward the periphery of the Evil Soul Forest. Before leaving, Yi Qingtang noticed that the main door to the Fiend Celestial's tomb was now shut. Many factions were gathered outside trying to figure out how to open it. Yi Qingtang did not know when the main door was shut, but she had no time to bother about it. It was good that they couldn't enter. At least they could keep their own lives. Soon after, Yi Qingtang led those newly improved brats out of the Evil Soul Forest. For the time being, she had no plans to continue messing around with the dangerous Fiend Celestial's tomb. The various factions were unable to open the main door and wasted a lot of time outside the tomb. The sky gradually darkened, but they still had not figured out how to open it. They had no choice but to set up camp inside the Evil Soul Forest, and continue thinking of ways the next day. An old man floated over in the sky during the night. He was one of the two men who had visited the tomb earlier. But the elder with the mask was not there. The stoop-backed old man scanned the various factions who were in the forest. Hidden by the darkness of the night, he flew over to the mountain peak above the tomb. It has been over 2 months. The demon pearl should have absorbed quite a bit of energy, the old man spoke in a low voice. Lifting his hand, a gust of black air shot toward the mountain. In the next second, the black ball which had been floating in the secret room flew out of the mountain peak and landed in the old man's hands. With a smile, the old man sent a probing energy into the demon pearl. But he was stunned by what he discovered. What happened? Why is the energy inside the demon pearl so weak? The old man frowned deeply. Countless people from the various factions had entered the Fiend Celestial's tomb over the past 2 months. At least several hundred thousands of them had died inside the tomb, including a fearsome Emperor-level practitioner. How could this be? Chapter 2287, Where did the energy go? 2. So many dead souls. The demon pearl would definitely have absorbed a lot of energy, but the old man's face instantly turned grim. According to their plan, the demon pearl should have already absorbed enough energy. That was why they had closed the main doors of the Fiend Celestial's tomb. But the old man could not understand. He took out his communication token. My lord, the old man said respectfully. Have you retrieved the demon pearl from the Evil Soul Forest? A deep voice rang out from the communication token. I have already retrieved it. Bring it back now. The old man's face stiffened. Hesitating a little, he finally said, I have retrieved the demon pearl, but there is a small problem. Speak. The old man continued. There is not enough energy inside the demon pearl. I can sense that it is still at least 70 to 80% away from the amount of energy required by my lord. What? The voice from the communication token was instantly filled with anger. Cold sweat appeared on the back of the old man as he said hurriedly, I don't know what happened either. Enough people have entered the Fiend Celestial's tomb and the demon pearl should have already absorbed enough energy. But I don't know what happened, my lord, should we arrange to open the main door to the Fiend Celestial's tomb again? And have another batch of people enter? The old man continued after a short pause. There is a limit to how much energy the demon pearl can absorb at one time. My lord, you already planned to open the tomb regularly and entice the various factions to enter until we absorbed all the energy we needed. I think it shouldn't be too big of an issue for us to extend this round. Imbecile. How long do you think we can use this tomb for? The old man was slightly taken aback. Before he could reply, the voice spoke out again. Never mind. Arrange for some men to open the main doors. We will give it another month. By then, no matter how much energy the demon pearl has absorbed, you must bring it back. The old man did not understand why his lord was so anxious. But knowing his lord's temper, he naturally did not dare to ask. The old man returned the demon pearl into the tomb and left. But he just could not understand why the demon pearl failed to absorb enough energy. Where did all that energy go? Could it be that the demon pearl was damaged? The puzzled old man had no idea that the demon pearl was not damaged at all. It had already absorbed enough energy, but someone had stumbled into the secret room by mistake and discovered the secret behind the array formation. That someone had then brought along her students and absorbed all the energy. And they themselves had no idea what they did. Meanwhile, Yi Qingtang had led her group out of the evil soul forest and finally arrived at a city after several days of journeying. They were at the halfway mark from the academy. Having lived in the wilderness for several months, those teenagers suddenly felt somewhat unused to the bustling city. But after they settled down in an inn, they couldn't resist sighing in relief. They finally had a bed to sleep in. They no longer had to chew on those dry rations, they no longer had to soak in that bloodbath, but could take a nice long shower. Showered, well-fed and lying on a clean bed, the teenagers were nearly crying in happiness. It had been so long before they enjoyed such comforts, this was pure bliss. Chapter 2288, Consecutive Breakthroughs. 1. They were still teenagers after all and inexperienced. If Yi Qingtang had not led them through that encounter, they would probably still be the same as those other teenagers in the academy. Leading comfortable, pampered lives in the academy. Venturing outside to train now and then, but nowhere too dangerous. There was a certain disparity between an academy and a sect. Most of the teenagers in the academy were still in training. Their teachers might be strict, but they would still ensure their safety. They would seldom bring them to dangerous training grounds. But sects were different. After entering a sect, you were part of it and had to serve it wholeheartedly. The only thing of importance was that one had to fight for the glory of the sect. Even if you received a dangerous mission, you had to treat death and injury as if they were common-day occurrences. Yi Qingtang had stayed in both an academy and a sect. In her opinion, academies were too soft. As a result, Lei Yan and the rest had no idea just how dark and cruel the world could be. Yi Qingtang allowed those brats a few days' rest in the city and also took it as an opportunity to unleash her suppressed cultivation level. In case something went wrong during the process, Yi Qingtang flew out of the city in the middle of the night. Finding a remote spot in the wilderness, she finally settled down and gradually released the suppressed energy inside her. It was not a complicated process to unleash energy. But it had to be done slowly to allow enough time for the body to adjust. After making all the proper preparations, Yi Qingtang finally unleashed the suppressed energy inside her. The energy was like a wild beast who had been caged for a long time. Yi Qingtang had just made a small opening when the energy surged madly out of her body. The force was even more ferocious than Yi Qingtang expected. In the blink of an eye, with just that first round of energy unleashed, Yi Qingtang had already risen by one heaven level. A beam of light surged out of her body, shooting straight into the sky. Yi Qingtang calmed her heart before releasing another bout of energy. As she continued to release bouts of energy, Yi Qingtang's cultivation stage increased by leaps and bounds. A thunderous boom rang out as a beam of golden light descended, and the light completely engulfed Yi Qingtang. This breakthrough was more earth-shattering than the other previous ones. The boom was like thunder, echoing across miles and miles. Divine Lord level. The sleeping Lei Yan and gang suddenly heard the booming sound. Having already honed a keen sense of vigilance inside the evil soul forest, those teenagers all woke up. What's that noise? Lei Yan leaped up from his bed and pushed open the window. A beam of golden light shot down at a mountain not far off. It seemed to turn the night into day. What the hell? It's the middle of the night but someone is breaking through to the Divine Lord level? Lei Yan rubbed his eyes. He was wondering which practitioner was having a breakthrough now. If this was in the past, Lei Yan would have been insanely jealous at the sight of someone achieving the Divine Lord stage. But now, he was already at the Divine Lord stage himself. This was nothing special. Lei Yan was just about to fall back into bed to sleep when a rumbling noise could be heard. An even more intense beam of golden light had appeared in the vicinity of the first beam. Completely stunned, all notions of sleep left Lei Yan. Are you kidding me? That person underwent another breakthrough? The Divine Lord's second heaven level. Chapter 2289, Consecutive Breakthroughs, 2, Lei Yan felt like he had just witnessed a miracle. This person had just achieved the Divine Lord level, how did he manage to break through again? Before Lei Yan could recover his senses, a booming noise rang out again. The golden light beam lit up the entire region, making it look like daytime. Lei Yan was dumbstruck. He gaped as he stared at the golden light outside the window. Again. Another breakthrough. This was the Divine Lord's second heaven level. Damn, what kind of powerful freak is this? Beyond the Divine Lord stage, it was already very difficult to ascend one heaven level. Even rising from the initial to the middle and then to the late stage within a single heaven level was challenging enough. But this person's ascension across the levels was astonishing. It was like he was on enhancement drugs. 3 consecutive breakthroughs in the blink of an eye. How did this person do it? The world was full of wonders. Lei Yan and the rest were not the only ones in the city who noticed this phenomenon. Many practitioners were startled awake and they stared at the golden light beams, which were growing increasingly brighter. This meant that this person was undergoing consecutive breakthroughs. All the practitioners in the city were utterly shocked by this discovery. Was it that easy to ascend to the Divine Lord stage? Where did this freak come from? The practitioners were all very curious. They wanted to venture toward the golden light to take a look. But in the end, they held back their curiosity. A practitioner who could undergo breakthroughs in this manner, how fearsome must he be? Who knew what kind of person he was? What if he was angered and went on a killing spree? They would be in a tight spot then. With the golden light as the focal point, all the practitioners in the region personally witnessed a once-in-lifetime breakthrough spectacle. Watching those golden light beams appearing one after another, countless people were dazed by the sight. Yi Qingtang, who was the cause of this spectacle, was completely unaware of the furor she had created. She was filled with shock as she felt her own power surge continuously. She thought that she would only be able to break through to the Divine Lord first heaven level. But reality had her completely dumbfounded. By the time the final bout of energy was released, Yi Qingtang's cultivation level had ascended several times. She was now at the Divine Lord 5th heaven level. Beyond the Divine Lord 5th heaven level was an entirely different world. After unleashing all her stored energy, Yi Qingtang's cultivation stage was eventually stabilized at the Divine Lord 5th heaven level initial stage. But this had already far surpassed Yi Qingtang's expectations. That secret room is so formidable. Yi Qingtang could feel the immense energy gradually merging into her body. Breaking through consecutively was an intoxicating experience. Having observed Qin Feng and the rest for some time, she saw that they had different innate talents but were more or less at similar cultivation levels. After cultivating in the secret room for some time, the difference in their cultivation levels had not widened. But the disparity between Yi Qingtang and them was now as wide as the ocean. Yi Qingtang had pretty good innate talent, but not that great as to have produced such a wide disparity. She could only come up with one explanation. Mental energy. Having been reborn, her mental energy far surpassed that of her peers. The array formation's energy was likely linked to mental energy. The stronger one's mental energy was, the more one could absorb. At this thought, Yi Qingtang felt somewhat comforted. Quietly masking her powers, she then flew back to the city. Chapter 2290, Consecutive Breakthroughs, 3. It was the middle of the night and people in the city should have been sleeping. But when Yi Qingtang flew back to the city, she realized that quite a number of people were gathered at the city gates. Luckily it was dark enough and Yi Qingtang was high up in the air. As a result, no one noticed her. Yi Qingtang returned to her room, all prepared to have a good rest and acclimatize to her new cultivation stage. But at this moment, there was a knock on her door. "Boss! Boss!" Lei Yan's voice rang out. Yi Qingtang opened her door and saw Lei Yan and the rest standing in a row outside her room. "Boss, you saw it too, right? Right?" Lei Yan stared at Yi Qingtang excitedly. Yi Qingtang was puzzled. "Saw what?" Lei Yan and the rest were stunned. "Some powerful practitioner underwent a breakthrough." "Boss, you didn't see it? You must have been sleeping too soundly. Someone underwent a breakthrough somewhere outside the city just now. And that fellow is a complete freak. We already felt that we had risen very fast when we cultivated in the secret room earlier. But this fellow is even more formidable. Guess how many times he broke through?" Yi Qingtang, 5 times. 5 whole times. And at the Divine Lord's stage. Lei Yan spoke excitedly. Yi Qingtang looked placidly at Lei Yan. 5 times? No, it was 9 times. However, those breakthroughs before the Divine Lord's stage were quieter and did not wake up anyone. It's just a breakthrough. Go back and sleep. Yi Qingtang spoke impassively. As those brats looked on in bewilderment, she closed her bedroom door. Shut outside, Lei Yan and the rest were dumbfounded. Their boss' reaction was just like that. But how else could Yi Qingtang react? She had been worried about creating a scene after unleashing her stored energy and improving her cultivation stage. It was nothing shocking to have a breakthrough, but consecutive breakthroughs within a short period of time was mind-blowing. The cultivation method of suppressing one's cultivation level had not yet been invented. Yi Qingtang did not wish to be seen as a freak by others. But she had not expected to transcend so many levels at one go either. As much as she had wanted to maintain a low profile, now she had astonished an entire city of practitioners. Yi Qingtang's only piece of luck was that no one knew she was the one who had undergone all those breakthroughs. The next morning, Yi Qingtang emerged from her room and saw Lei Yan and the rest already downstairs and gathered with a group of other diners. It was still early morning but the dining hall was already filled with people. And all of them were energetic martial art practitioners. At this moment, they were all gathered in what looked like a passionate discussion. "Did you all see what happened last night?" "Of course we did, who didn't?" "Calm down. Do you think it was really just one person who made so many breakthroughs yesterday? Could it be a bunch of practitioners gathered together and who just happened to break through at the same time? How in the world can there be so many coincidences?" Not only were the timings so close to each other, but each breakthrough was also higher than the previous one. How can there be so many coincidences in life? I think someone must have gotten some secret artifact. Otherwise, how can a normal person have so many breakthroughs over such a short period of time? Did you guys hear the news? What news? I heard that not long ago, the Temple of Paragon issued a notice that they wanted to get the Fiend Celestial's eye from the tomb. The various factions have been searching into the Fiend Celestial's tomb over this period. Do you think the person from last night got some precious artifact from the tomb, and so managed to attain such miraculous breakthroughs?